Good evening, everyone. Clerk Reed, could you please take the roll?
Yes. Alderman Fisk? No. Alderman Braithwaite?
Here.
Alderman Nguyen?
Here.
Alderman Wilson?
Here.
Alderman Ruth Simmons? Alderman Suffredin?
Here.
Alderman Ravel?
Here.
Alderman Rainey?
Here.
And Alderman Fleming. I believe we have a quorum. Oh, I think we need Alderman Fisk.
Alderman Fisk is here. I saw her just a minute ago.
He's probably muted. Alderman Ravel is muted and Alderman Fisk is muted.
Got it. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Monday, April 13th, 2020 Evanston City Council meeting. I do believe we're going to have all of our aldermen here tonight. I know Alderman Fleming will be with us shortly, and I believe Alderman Ruth Simmons will be joining as well. Alderman Wilson, could you please make a motion for us to have this remotely, this meeting?
Sure. I move that we suspend the rules to allow us to conduct the meeting by internet teleconference.
Second.
Again,
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the motion passes that we're going to have this city council meeting remotely or virtually, which is allowed under the governor's emergency order. So I want to welcome everyone to the Monday, April 13th, 2020 Evanston City Council meeting. To those of you who celebrated yesterday, I hope you had a wonderful Easter. I know it's not easy celebrating Easter and Passover and other springtime occasions without seeing family and friends. So many of our traditions involve seeing one another, and yet we're not able to do that right now. The steadfast effort, however, of our community to stay home and slow the spread is making a difference. The numbers are bearing that out. I remain confident that this too shall pass. As difficult and painful as this experience is, I believe we will look back upon this with a renewed sense of strength and a greater sense of purpose. Tonight, I would like to give the community a quick update on the progress that has been made related to COVID-19 since the last time we met. We have seen the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases rise from 55 to 175 since our last meeting on March 23rd. While the increase of 145 may seem large, it's only a 218% increase, far below the nearly 1,000% increase I reported between March 17th and March 23rd. Our days to double is slower than the national average of 10 days. So it's taking 10 days for this confirmed cases to double in the United States, and the state average of 8 days. And so we are doubling at a slower rate than that, which is positive news for our city and our community. Our hospitals continue to have available beds. They continue to have available ICU units and available ventilators. We currently have sufficient PPEs, which a month ago we probably all didn't even know what a PPE was, so personal protective equipment, on hand for our emergency responders, our city staff, and congregate care facilities in the city that need emergency PPEs while they're waiting for their own supplies to come in. The Evanston Community Foundation's COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund has raised over $700,000 and distributed over $300,000. The intent of that fund is to raise money and distribute it to the most essential needs in the community, and to do that quickly. In addition, they have a $1 million matching gift from the Finnegan family. So please consider a donation to the Evanston COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. Is being put to important and good use here in our community. You can go to evanstonforever.org and double your money right away. Residents and individuals throughout Evanston have stepped up to address increased food insecurity issues that are now present in Evanston due to COVID-19. I want to give a big shout out to the following organizations, and there's probably many others that I'm forgetting here, so I apologize. But to the following organizations who have stepped up. That includes Meals on Wheels, Evanston Township High School and District 65 and our own Parks Department, Chef Q, Feast and Imbibe, Jennifer's Edibles, Hillside Food Pantry, Vineyard Food Pantry, Interfaith Action, Koi, Kansuka, Kurt's Cafe, and coming this Wednesday, a new City of Evanston food pantry at James Park. I'm going to ask Alderman Fleming at Call of the Wards just to share some more details about that. You can also find them on our city website, cityofelvanston.org. Our homeless advocates, including Connections for the Homeless and Interfaith Action, continue to work hard to support those without a home through an expanded sheltering program. Our banks, city economic development staff, and business associations in town continue to work with all of our affected businesses to help them gain access to federal, state, and county grants and loans. Our state and federal partners partners, including all of our elected officials, continue to work with all the federal and state agencies to push them to provide aid in the CARES Act as quickly as possible to families and to businesses. Experts believe that we're in the midst of a peak this month in April, and that if we continue to comply with the governor's stay-at-home order, we will put ourselves in a better position to return our hospitals to standard care instead of crisis care and gradually reopen the economy. All of this positive news isn't without some sad news. Since we met last, our death toll in Evanston has risen from 1 resident to 5. 3 of those residents have been in one of our senior living communities. In fact, our city's #1 incident objective remains assisting long-term care facilities and other organizations to serve the most vulnerable and at-risk populations for COVID-19. Our public health department continues to work closely with our senior living communities to mitigate and manage outbreaks. This will continue to be a primary focus. I want to share with you the data the governor's office and the city is paying close attention to. It's seeing a decline in these data points that will help inform the governor's office of when to ease up on the severe restrictions put in place so that we can restart the economy while still protecting and safely caring for those most at risk. Those data points are looking at it to see a decrease over time in the confirmed number of cases, the number of hospitalizations, the number of ICU admits, and the number of fatalities from COVID-19. We expect to see these metrics plateau and flatten this month because of the measures enacted over the last month in the work of everyone here in Evanston and across our state to slow the spread. Finally, I want to end with a big thank you to all the healthcare workers, emergency responders, and congregate home living staff. These are the folks, our neighbors, our relatives, our friends who are on the front line. Like the firefighters and police officers of 9/11, you will always be remembered for your willingness to put others before yourself. Thank you, and I'm going to turn now to the city manager for any announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have Audrey Thompson here to give an update on the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. As you know, we were unable to have the Summer Youth Employment Fair that we typically hold each year in March. So we're going to do some alternate arrangements, and Audrey can speak to that.
Welcome, Audrey.
All right, thank you so much. So thank you, Mayor Haggerty and Interim City Manager Storley and all City Council members. I just wanted to provide an update and give some excitement. I know that during this time, it's pretty hard on all of us, but I just want to really applaud the work of the Youth and Young Adult Outreach team and some of the strides that they've made to pivot regarding the Summer Youth Employment Program. So before the crisis, we were pulling together some numbers, and on March 6th, there were 361 students who registered for the job fair. And in 2019, at that time, before any job readiness training session, there were only 154 registered. So we even had 181 students in total registered for the job readiness trainings. So at that time, we were already ahead of 2019 online registrations by 234%. So this year's job fair was on target to be the best ever. So the team was relentless in getting the word out about the job fair, and it really showed. In addition, this year, we had more external employers to sign up and participate than ever before. So as of COVID-19, we've had to evolve a little, and because of the closing of ETHS, the job fair and the job readiness trainings were unfortunately canceled. So the youth and young adult team had to quickly create innovative ways to allow students to register for summer jobs and also to name their employer of choice with no in-person job fair. So information was sent out to students via personal contact information, social media, the City of Evanston website, and it really encouraged young people to register for this virtual job fair. So with the hard work and the leadership of our program supervisor, Nathan Norman, this year's registration soared from 361 on March 6th to 761 online registrations by the due date of March 28th. And in the next 4 days, 562 additional students or the same students went back on and selected their 5 job choices. So now we are currently working with our internal employers to schedule virtual job interviews and to match students with employers. However, we do understand that some of our internal and external employers may have to decrease or even eliminate jobs due to the COVID-19 crisis. As a result, we are prepared to pivot our outreach efforts in the event that some students are unable to receive employment through MSYEP. The team is currently working with our community partners, including MEAC, also Youth Job Center. We're also working with YOU, and we'll continue to make sure that as many students have jobs as possible this summer. So in addition to that, we're working with our Career Pathways apprenticeship program to assist in placement of high school seniors who are not seeking the traditional path of college. So that's my update.
You're muted, Erica. You're muted, Erica.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Audrey. That concludes my announcements, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Audrey, for all that your team is doing. Let's go to clerk announcements. Clerk Reed?
Yes, I have a number of statements that have been received by the clerk's office. Are we going to follow a pattern similar to last week and read them at the end, or are we going to?
Yeah, so those are for public comment?
Yes, so I guess they should be before the meeting since they're.
Yeah, so what we'll do, because today's going to be our first time where we do public comment. People could have mailed in public comment, and we'll have those from you, and then we've got additional people that may be calling.
Emily, it's Audrey. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Quick question, and this is not about your COVID cases, so I want to make sure.
Audrey,
I said
Audrey,
maybe she probably thought I was talking about COVID.
She probably needs to
But
meet
I
her lot.
wanted to ask about,
Audrey?
did she contact you?
Go ahead and mute her. As the host, you have the ability to mute her.
Thank
Yes,
you. Okay,
please.
she's been muted. So Clerk Reed, so we've got people that have written in comments. We have folks that are either going to Zoom in or they are calling in, correct?
Yes. So folks have been able to sign up for public comment using the clerk's form and Luke Stowe. For folks who are reaching in by phone, we'll call those folks, and folks coming in through Zoom. An email has been sent out. Other folks did just submit written comments, as you said.
Okay, so how many people are Zooming in or calling in?
I think Luke has those numbers, the different.
We currently have about 8 people in the waiting room for public comment at this time.
Great. So let's do this then. Clerk Reed, why don't we go ahead? Do you have any other clerk announcements besides those public comments?
No.
Okay, so let's go ahead and have you provide those that you have right now, and then Luke will turn to the ones that are going to Zoom in or call in, and then they'll each get up to 3 minutes.
Okay, I will read. The first one is from Doreen Price. And Doreen writes in that there will be greater opportunities to reconcile new and shifting priorities in the City of Evanston 2020 budget. As CJR, the false debate over reopening America suggests, Evanston's focus on 2020 budget goals and shortfalls before COVID-19 may now put public health and well-being as Evanston's #1 priority. Above the article, I choose two excerpts, reframing and our job in covering it. This not only applies to journalists and what they write, but how we as a community move forward fresh and energized. Building multifaceted community-wide prosperity, it depends on fortifying residents and homes to promote and sustain long-term health, resiliency, and well-being in a COVID-19 uncertain world. Nonprofits neither can nor will drive sustainable socioeconomic equality and independence. How wonderful to have greater resources for resilience and sustainability through other crises as their causes reveal now themselves in ways not seen. I believe a true build of health and human services with an exciting vision to nationalize and national recognition level will enable Evanston to lead with others, mayors and governors down to the grassroots level. That's Doreen's message there. The next is from I apologize.
Did you want to add something, Alderman Braithwaite?
No, I'm good. Just thank you.
I apologize. If we can come back to the written public comments.
Okay. Okay, then, all right, so we'll come back to you at the end and we'll go to the public ones now. Clerk, thank you. Luke Stowe, can you set it up then? So, and I don't have the list unless somebody sent me the list of folks. If not, and Luke, you have it, why don't you go ahead and just let the person know.
Sure.
Do you have a time limit for these?
We do have a time limit. Each of these folks, because we had 8 folks and maybe there's a 9th one, they can each have up to 3 minutes if needed.
Okay, Mayor. The first speaker is Mike Vasilko.
Welcome. You're muted. Mike, you're muted. You want to unmute? There you go.
First, I don't understand why everybody can't be on the Zoom meeting at the same time, but I guess that's a different subject. I wrote in about the coronavirus executive order. Tom sent me a list of what was considered essential businesses, and just about everything could be interpreted as an essential business. I wrote about an ice cream parlor, but the executive order says businesses that have frozen foods are considered an essential business. So I guess an ice cream parlor is an essential business. I also wrote to the health department about the lack of personal protection, masks and gloves being worn by people working in grocery stores and at curbside restaurants. I was told by managers of both kind of places that it was a voluntary thing for employees to wear them or not. The health department should require everyone in food service to wear personal protection equipment. It shouldn't be a choice. But just today, I heard a CNN report that there are grocery store people who have actually died of coronavirus because of their contact with the public and with other employees. And their union leaders say that the food stores, like Whole Foods, are not providing the personal protection equipment. So I guess my question is, which one is true? Is personal protection for food service workers voluntary, or are the grocery stores just not providing it to their employees? Either way, it's a risk to the public. So I'd like somebody at the city to get to the bottom of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Luke, who's our next speaker?
Okay, Mayor. Judith Treadway is the next speaker.
Well, welcome, Judith. You'll want to unmute, Judith. You're muted right now.
Unmute.
There you go. Welcome.
Thank you.
Personal protection, the food service worker is voluntary, or the grocery store is just not providing here.
She may want to turn her TV down if she can.
Okay.
I'd like somebody at the city to the bottom of that.
I turned it down.
There you go. You're on, Judith.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, City Clerk, alderpersons, and administrators. I'm here to make a request for item P1 to be taken off of the agenda. The reason being is because of the current experience and the state executive orders and the economic impact on our community, that we need to utilize all additional funds that we have to try and sustain our residents in Evanston. I'm not against the development of the property, but at this particular time, I think that we should be focusing any dollars we have on sustaining our residents in Evanston. We have many homeless adults and children. Many of them have lost their jobs, have been furloughed. We have essential workers who need child care. We have a wonderful food insecurity program going with all the community organizations. But the most important thing that our homeless families need is a place to sleep every night with their children, and also to have some stability during this time. We have over 10,000 students out of school. Over 4,000 of those students on the free and reduced lunch program, mostly free lunch program. This is the meal that most of the kids get that they may not get at home. So we need to consider the fact that their parents also have had economic impact. They may have been furloughed or laid off. They may not have any resources other than whatever public welfare they're receiving right now. We have our agencies working to stabilize some of them in temporary housing. And I would like to also mention that we should have we should agree with the stay of the Governor Pritzker that no one can be evicted at this particular time based on his time frame, and that they would not be losing their homes. And I got a call today about a family that was being evicted. Also, I want to say that we do have apartments in Evanston, and we do need to work with the continuum of care agency we have, which is Connections for the Homeless, in order for them to assist these families and placed in some permanent homes. Regarding the funding, we have the home funds. We need to expand the tenant-based rental assistance with the home funds. And we also need to work on the funds that we receive for the rapid rehousing program and also for the housing prevention program. Our city has received these funds, and we should be utilizing these funds to assist these families that are homeless. We have significant housing issues in Evanston. We can feed the whole community, but we need to find some housing for our families. We are losing our families in Evanston, in particular our African American families, because they cannot afford the rent. Some of them are working. They just need some assistance with paying their rent. And I think that we have enough money in the home funds that we could do that. So I'm saying, again, we need to remove item P1 from the agenda temporarily, because we can use that $190,000 to expand our services with our continual care agency, Connections for the Homeless, and assist some of these families with their rent, as well as assist those that cannot afford the high rent in Evanston.
Thank you, Judith.
That's it.
Perfect. You were right on 3 minutes. Great job.
Thank you. All right. Can you leave it open for us to watch the other people's comments? Can Luke do that?
I don't know if Luke yeah, do that, or if you can just watch on the TV.
Yeah. The best recommendation would be to go ahead and watch either on Channel 16 TV or YouTube.
Can I mute myself now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Alderman Fleming?
I just want to let Ms. Treadway know that we are in compliance with what the governor recommended in terms of moratoriums on evictions, because those come through Cook County, and Cook County has put the moratorium on evictions. So if you do have someone who, is caught and is facing an eviction, that will be not legal at this point. And so they should reach out to their alderman, or I'm happy to put them in touch with someone. They can also reach out to Metropolitan Tenants Association, who is still open and accepting calls from Evanston residents regarding any threat of eviction at this time.
I asked her to send me the name and address of where they're getting evicted.
All right. We've got our next speaker. Let's stick with
probably call the police too.
Public comment. We'll stick with public comment. Luke, is our next speaker John Cleary?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Cleary. If you want to unmute, you've got the floor.
To go ahead and watch either on Channel 16 TV or YouTube.
Can I mute myself now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, John.
Can I say something?
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty. How are you this evening?
I just want to let Ms. Treadway know that we are in compliance with what the governor recommended in terms of moratoriums on evictions.
Just 1 second there, John.
Cook County and Cook County has
Luke, can you mute her or just take her off of it?
John, if you could turn your TV.
I just did.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm the owner of the property at 2044 Wesley Avenue, which I'm sure you're aware of now. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we're on the agenda tonight looking for removal of the West Evanston overlay on our property. I just want to say a couple of quick things. We adhere to the spirit of four of the five principles of the West Evanston overlay. The fifth one is to do a commercial property, so we don't adhere to that, but 4 of the 5 guiding principles we adhere to it. We reconnect the community, we maintain the green character of the community, we increase the walkability of the neighborhood, and we provide a life cycle of housing choices. And therefore, the principles of the West Evanston overlay. We feel we adhere to that. The other thing we're going to do is create 3 new affordable homes. We're going to create 25 moderately priced homes, and we're going to improve the neighborhood. And this project in total will probably end up being about $9 million spread out over 2 to 2.5 years, and it has the potential to create over 100 jobs. So I'd just like your support in this matter so that we can move this project further along. Thank you very much. So that's piece 7 on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Luke.
Mayor, the next speaker is former Alderman Jane Grover.
All right, welcome, Alderman Grover. You have the floor. Jane, you're muted.
Now?
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty. Thank you, city staff. This is just from me, an Evanston resident, a quick thank you to city staff, city leadership for your extraordinary efforts to support Evanston residents and businesses and employees to reduce their hardship. I appreciate your communications, the webpage, the information, all of the updates that we've been getting. I appreciate the tangible resources that you've been able to provide to Evanston residents, and I know there will be more to come, so thank you very much. And I appreciate how you have tried to fold in consideration of inequities and resource disparities and how you deploy city emergency operations. So thank you very much to everyone. That's all I wanted to say. And hello, and I wish your families all the best. Stay safe.
You can come on anytime, Jane. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Luke, next.
Okay, Mayor, next speaker is Carl Klein. And just as a reminder for speakers, if they can turn their TV down or YouTube down when they join the Zoom call.
Great, thank you. Carl, are you on? I don't see you.
I see Carl's on here. Carl, if you can unmute.
Oh, I see him now. All right, let's see. There he is. Carl, if you could unmute, you've got the floor, Carl. There you go.
Former Alderman Grover was on my YouTube. Can you hear me now?
I can. We can. Welcome.
All right. Good evening. So tonight I'm attending your virtual city council meeting. Let's see. Not everyone is able to virtually attend this meeting. Some are selflessly working in grocery stores and hospitals. Some don't have access to internet. Some are more focused on their health or attempting to piece their lives together after losing their jobs. Yet again, the city of Evanston is facing a budgetary deficit. The city of Evanston sees a $10.6 million budget shortfall, nearly 9% of the city's entire general fund budget. As interim city manager Erica Storley correctly said, this is pretty catastrophic. First, let's acknowledge that residents don't want to feel nickeled or dimed to death with added taxes and fines to fill this $10.6 million hole in this year's Evanston city budget. Evanstonians pay an average annual property tax of more than $8,200. The city of Evanston has the most burdensome property taxes in the state and the 7th highest in the country. This is according to an analysis of census data done by Jonah Mattos from the Patch. Now, let me remind you that Marty Lyons, former assistant city manager's chief financial officer, sent the city council on April 18, 2007, a Northwestern University tax-exempt property analysis. This document was available on the city website, but now mysteriously has been removed. This analysis found that Northwestern University should be paying the city of Evanston close to $29 million each year as part of the city portion of their total property tax levy. The total tax levy for all taxing bodies would be over $200 million. Yes, this was a simple analysis, but it revealed that Northwestern University, the largest landowner in the city, is not contributing an equitable amount through a plan for payment in lieu of taxes. Northwestern University has 237 buildings with a combined 11,291,698 square feet on over 240 acres. Northwestern University has a $10.5 billion endowment, which generates interest annually. The city of Evanston should request Northwestern University to use the proceeds of the interest earned on the endowment to pay the estimated $29 million amount while leaving the principal of the endowment intact. City Council should start serious discussion of setting up a legitimate payment in lieu of taxes for Northwestern. Northwestern puts numerous burdens on our police, fire, and public works resources. If everything was truly equitable in the city of Evanston, the city would demand Northwestern University pay their fair share of taxes or contributions in lieu of taxes. Finally, let me discuss P2. I recently became aware that you are considering having the mayor appoint the chairs for Plan Commission and ZBA instead of having them selected by members of each of those bodies. I think this is an autocratic management style. The mayor already appoints everyone on the Plan Commission and the ZBA. Let the Plan Commission and ZBA select their own chairs. I hope this misguided effort to consolidate power into the mayorship is shot down. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Luke, who's our next speaker?
Okay, Mayor, our next speaker is Robert Feutzer.
Great. All right, I see Mr. Feutzer. Welcome. You've got the floor, Robert. You're muted now. Can you unmute? Can you say something? I can see you. You're not muted, but I can't hear you.
Did you just call me Mayor Hagerty? Thanks. Yeah,
Yes,
appreciate
yep.
it. Sorry, I didn't realize I was up. Thanks, Mayor Hagerty. Thanks, City Council, for listening to my comments. My name is Bob Fretcher. I'm a resident, 1580 Sherman Avenue in Evanston. My reason for speaking with you tonight is to share with you my objection and concern about the 605 Davis Street office building that's proposed. I've got three real concerns with it, two of which are specific to the building itself. The first of which is related to the process. No fault of anyone, I think, at the city of Evanston, but I don't believe the manner in which the Plan Commission approved this building is the sort of process that we would want to use for this dramatically large and dramatically out of compliance building. The meeting was held on March 11th. As you'll see in my written comments, which I'm not going to repeat here, the governor had issued a disaster proclamation 2 days prior to that meeting. The city council itself canceled its next meeting, which I believe was on the 16th. The meeting probably never should have been held. And the building at 605 Davis probably most directly impacts the elderly. There's a large number of residents directly to the east in the Mather and the Marion who are going to be directly in the shadow of this building as the sun moves to the west. There's another 440 units at my building and at 807 Davis that'll be in the shadow of this building in the morning. And so I just don't think it's the sort of transparent, open process that we want to have, particularly for our elderly residents who are concerned, very concerned. And that concern was expressed at that Plan Commission meeting on the 11th, that elderly people would be nervous and uncomfortable. And in subsequent fact, Evanston had its first COVID cases almost immediately thereafter, and shortly thereafter, two of our residents, both elderly, passed away. So I think the people who chose not to attend that meeting, in fact, made the right choice. My concerns with the building itself are pretty obvious. It has a floor area ratio which is completely out of whack with the zoning requirements of that area. I recognize that Evanston is desperate for cash. I recognize that. I don't think this is the right way to get it. The building is a floor area ratio, or FAR, of 13 in an area that's recommended or approved for 4.5, and with the allowance up to 8. That means this building is 165% of the allowed FAR. And while people have variously commented that they like the building, it's attractive, that has nothing to do with the FAR. And it is not a way to mitigate the FAR. The FAR speaks to the building's bulk, its size, and its density. And that's going to manifest itself for the thousands of residents who live in this area in the form of increased traffic, congestion, and frankly, danger, because that alleyway on the west side of that building is very, very busy already. And when you hear people say, well, don't worry, it's going to be a lot of people who get there via mass transit, it doesn't matter. People are going to be getting there via Lyft, Uber. There's going to be FedEx, UPS, Amazon trucks. There's going to be Instacart and Grubhub. The building is going to drive enormous amounts of traffic and volume and activity in and around that area. And Davis is already very, very busy. I can almost assure you somebody's going to get hit on that alley. And let's hope nobody dies. That's my first big
Robert,
issue.
I need, we allot 3 minutes for each person for public comment. You've hit your 3 minutes, so if you could just wrap up in like 15.
So I'll wrap up very quickly. I think finally it sets a terrible precedent. And so you pass a building with a FAR of 13 in an area where 8 is the max with the allowance. How are you ever going to turn down any developer going forward? Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Be safe.
Thank you. You too. Luke?
Okay, Mayor, we've got a couple more folks. A couple of these folks are call-in only, so there's no video, so we'll give this a try. I believe this first person is going to be Tina Payton.
Okay. Welcome, Tina. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? This is Steve Haggerty. Hi, Tina. This is Steve Haggerty. You have the floor.
Hello.
Hi, Tina. This is Steve Haggerty. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes. Hi.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
You have the floor.
Okay.
You're speaking to the City Council. Welcome.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Clerk, and the City Council. I'm Tina Payton, and I would like to talk about 1930 Jackson. And I'm opposed to the coach house for the $190,000. There was no notice to the neighbors and the vested interest people. I have a building on the Emerson and Jackson, half a block away, and there was no notice. There's been no discussion about the coach house, and there's this money could house families during the. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, we can.
Okay. And so this money could house many families during this pandemic, and the money should be going to housing the families. I asked, sent everybody an email a few days ago about money being sent to house families. Families should not be housed in hotels. You all have 100 hotel rooms with people with children, and this money could be used to house families. You're giving one person $190,000 for one single coach house that's only going to house one family. And you don't even give small landlords like me, who has been asking for many years for money to, and I house up to 15 families, and I have 3-4 bedrooms, and no one is helping me, but you're going to give $190,000 to one single coach house. So I'm objecting to this. There's been no discussion about this, and no notice to the neighbors or vested interest persons. Once again, no help for the small landlords, but you continue to give money to favorites of friends or whoever you want to concerning apartments in the neighborhood. Now you have a whole row of boarded up homes in the neighborhood, but you're going to put a coach house behind the same block that has 4 boarded up houses and 4 on Emerson. So I object, and these issues need to be held over. We're in a serious pandemic crisis here, and we need to talk about how we're going to help our seniors. There's been a breakout in the nursing homes. I discussed this last week, and no response at Symphony Nursing Home. There's a breakout, and we need to be testing people, and we're spending money and time talking about buildings and that have no sense. It doesn't make sense that we're talking about these things that need to be done, and we need to be focused on families and testing and the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Luke, who's our next speaker?
Hi, Mayor. I believe the next speaker is Roberta Hudson.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I am calling regarding the P1 agenda. I'm concerned about the dollars that are being spent for that project, and it should be going to the nursing homes. I have a family member in a nursing home that I was called yesterday to tell me that this is a third person on her floor that has the virus, and this person is at risk for this. I asked if she could be tested, and they said they only test people if it's if the virus is there. And I need to know how to get her out of this nursing home. And the only way I can get her out is for her to be tested and be negative before I could place her anywhere else. I'm very concerned, and I think the city should be very investing in the testing facilities that need, like all the nursing homes here. This virus has happened overnight. It's expanding from the first one that was a staff member that had it, and now we have 3 people on the floor where she is, and she's not able to care for herself. So I'm looking for someone to help me to get her out of there and get tested so that she could be considered eligible to go somewhere else. Right now, she's at risk.
Roberta, this is Steve Haggerty. If you could send me an email, I'll give you my email right now. I will pass this on to the city's public health director.
I would appreciate it.
Okay, my email is shaggerty, that's Hagerty, at cityofelvanston.org.
I would appreciate it. I need to get her out immediately.
Okay.
And I understand they can't test anyone. And I even talked to the North Shore Hospital, and they said if we can get her over there, but I can't get her out of there, and I can't go there.
Right. There's a lot of protocols and everything else. If you email me, I'll have the public health team at least get back with you or get back with your friend that's there. Thank you.
I'd appreciate it.
Thank you for calling.
Very much.
Thank you for calling. Luke, do we have another?
Mayor, we do. I have another person I've just unmuted. I don't have the name with this to go with this resident, though.
Is this the last one, Luke?
There may be 1 or 2 more.
All right, I'll come back to you. Welcome. This is Steve Haggerty. You're with the Evanston City Council. If you could introduce yourself, your name, and what ward you live in, that would be great. And then we welcome your comment.
This is Priscilla Giles, but I'm still hearing the person speaking before me. Can you hear me?
Priscilla, do you have your TV on?
Yes, so I turn it off?
If you have your TV on, I would turn that off, and that should take care of it.
Okay. Okay, this is Priscilla Giles, and I'm in the 5th Ward. The 1400 block of Emerson and the 1900 block of Jackson have multiple houses boarded up that formerly housed Black and brown families economically challenged. These houses were slated for housing shown in a city meeting or planned meeting that the people misplaced can in no way afford. Is this the way Evanston shows equity and diversity? If so, this is a shame. This is not fair. When the virus is over, these people will still need homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giles. Luke?
Mayor, we have 1 or 2 more people trying to get on here. Lori Keenan's trying to dial in right now, and I think we have 1 more person after that.
If you don't have them ready, Luke, do you want me just to go to Clerk Reed for the other comments that he's...
Sure, that'd be fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Clerk?
So I have the comments pulled up. There are a number of folks. This one was sent by Ken Weingard. There are a number of folks who sent a form statement to myself to be read to the council. And that request is, Dear Mayor and City Council members, we ask that you impose a moratorium on small cells and other wireless infrastructure permit process and deployment until the COVID-19 emergency is over. The wireless providers are using the COVID-19 emergency as cover to expand and cement their rapid and virtually unsupervised deployment of harmful wireless infrastructure. Our local leaders should not have to dedicate time and resources to policing whether the wireless companies are following local and state law. They have far more important things to do. The FCC wireless permit rules allow emergency moratoria. That's sick. Homeland Security guidelines emphasize that maintenance of existing communication capability is the priority. New construction is not, quote unquote, essential. The COVID-19 emergency has led to a government shutdown of non-essential activity. Hospitals, emergency response, and local officials are overwhelmed, and they must be allowed to focus on what is indeed essential. Now is not the time to be dedicating resources to expanding rather than just maintaining our networks. And the entirety of the comment.
Thank you. How many comments like that? You could just, if you just.
Yeah, all of those, those, I've lumped those into one. So there have been a number to form, and all of this will be passed on to the council. The next comment, apologies. Is from Paul Price.
What's the name?
Paul Price.
Paul Price, okay.
Yes. And Paul Price, I'm sorry. Well, it says from Paul, the email was Paul Price, but here in the attachment says, my name is Michael Pagano. I'm a business agent for Laborers Local 1. The Laborers Union represents 20,000 hardworking construction workers in the Chicagoland area, including 63 workers that live here in Evanston. The developer of the proposed project at 1515 Ridge Avenue has presented its development to you, promising benefits that its project will bring to Evanston. I'm writing these comments to tell you about the broken promises that have been delivered by this developer on its other projects in Chicago and other suburbs. Over the past 9 years, Michigan Avenue Real Estate Group has built 24 buildings in Chicagoland. These projects have been frequently built by contractors and subcontractors that do not pay area standard wages, but were still hired by Michigan Avenue Real Estate. The laborers and other building unit trade unions have been trying to work with Michigan Avenue Real Estate Group and its contractors for several years now. Unfortunately, the meetings have gone nowhere, and we are left to educating municipalities and the public about the truth behind the pretty presentations. The handouts referenced below are attached to the end of my testimony, and so there are a number of attachments here that will be included in the record and forwarded to the counselor. We will not summarize those. It's about 8 pages of attachments.
Thank you, Clerk.
All right. Jeff Parker leaves a comment. Mayor Haggerty and City Council, the tape co factory at 1527 Lion Street produces asphalt tape using coal tar pitch applied to a cotton backing, and has been operating in our neighborhood for over a decade. Coal tar pitch has been linked to various cancers and other serious health conditions. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, when residents of Illinois have been ordered to shelter in place by the governor's office, Tape Coat continues to unapologetically subject residents to their emissions. We are subjected to the noxious smell of burning tar, rubber, and asphalt at all times of the day. Depending on how the wind blows, the smell is extremely intense to the point residents have to cover their noses and mouths to leave their homes. Residents are waking up with headaches on a daily basis, and at times, a mysterious metallic bad taste in their mouth. Neighbors have experienced mysterious illnesses such as lung cancer, lesions, and respiratory issues. The writer says, we're concerned to let our kids play in the backyard or the neighborhood parks. Kitty corner, the neighborhood park kitty corner from Tape Coat. The common denominator of these concerns is Tape Coat, owned by Chase Corp. While the effects of this process have been concerned for years, we've decided to shine a light on the potential impact of their emissions in hopes of finally coming to a resolution. The main concern is the emission of asphalt fumes from the coating process. The residents want an answer to when this will end. Delaying this process on Tape Coat's end is only prolonging the suffering of residents. and there's a few more. Mayor Haggett, if you can also help me with time to make sure we're not going over time with the written comments as well. Okay. Reading it into the record. The next is comment is from Harris Miller. Good evening all. Harris Miller, 4th Ward. Please table items P2 to revise ordinances 38-020 and 39-020 and 47-020 for ZBA, DAPR, and the Planning Commission that would allow the mayor to appoint community members, and P3 for the 605 Davis Street proposed office building. I want residents to comment on these items after our state of emergency is lifted on May 13th, post COVID-19 pandemic. As for 605 Davis Street, I'm concerned that the office space will be unnecessary because people and companies will likely choose to work remotely in the post COVID-19 pandemic era as a physical distancing precaution. For employees, own conveniences to save money and due to potentially significant technological acceleration. I would not want downtown Evanston to have a newly built but empty office building because of low office space demand. In general, there's lots of uncertainty about the future. However, I expect many of these new social norms to permanently alter the workplace and the business landscape over the next year to 5 years. Also, please oppose item P4 for the proposed 1555 Ridge Avenue plan development. In this new era, I do not see how anyone will afford $2,800 to $3,200 per month for rent. The city should focus on addressing more affordable rentals and housing to meet the new demand come post-pandemic era, as millions are currently unemployed or will become unemployed in the months ahead. I also do not understand how any future expensive apartment developments will fit into Evanston's equity and reparations goals in the post-pandemic era. Finally, how are these quote-unquote essential business items when the city extended our state of emergency order until May 13th? Does the city of Evanston have nothing better to do? Also, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Governor J.B. Pritzker are only focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic priorities and truly essential needs. I do not believe that many residents know about these situations, nor will follow the city council meetings during these tough times. They are too focused on the sick, those who passed on, their own health and their families, and homeschooling their children. Many people have lost their jobs and are trying to figure out how they will survive. Some people cannot afford to put food on the table and have become homeless. Thank you for reading and understanding my concerns. Please stay healthy and safe. Regards, Harris Miller.
That was 3 minutes on the dot.
All right, good, Harris. Thank you for writing a 3-minute statement. Okay, we have Patty Shaw. Dear Mr. Reed, I hope you address to the council. We hope that you and your family, I think are staying safe during these trying times. We would like to request the proposed 605 Davis Street office building project be sent back to the Planning Commission in order that citizen input can be given. The meeting during which this project was approved by the Planning Commission took place on March 11th, when there was grave concern about the threat posed by COVID-19. Concerned residents were not comfortable attending. Asterisk, this is the governor of Illinois issued a disaster proclamation on March 9th, fully 2 days prior to the meeting. Second asterisk is the city council canceled its own meeting scheduled for March 16th and then held an emergency meeting to address the COVID-19 pandemic. At prior meetings that we attended, there was a great deal of discussion concerning the fact that this proposed building significantly violates the zoning codes for this district. Clearly, nothing should be decided before all interested residents have had the opportunity to voice their legitimate concerns. Therefore, we hope that the city council meeting proposed for today, April 13th, might be held, or at very least that this project be tabled. We appreciate your thoughts and response, Jim and Patty Shaw.
Thank you.
A few more. Hydron Hope. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. To members of the city, I believe this is actually addressed to the Planning and Development Committee, but it was submitted to me, so I assume it's for the council as well. Design Evanston, the not-for-profit design advocacy organization, would like to go on record in support of the proposed development at 605 Davis Street. The Design Evanston board and members held a review of this project in June of 2019 and has had continued conversations with the project team since then. Vermilion Development and Solomon Cordwell Waynes have responded robustly to the Design Evanston review as represented in the presentation submitted for your review today. Some specific examples are the relation of the Davis Street entry/retail pavilion to the existing streetscape, attention to pedestrian and bicycle safety, and the public benefits included in the package. Design Evanston would like to have some continued conversation with the 605 project team regarding the design integration of the entry/retail pavilion with the office tower and the efficacy of the proposed bird-friendly glass zone. Respectfully, Hydro and Hope of the Design Evanston board member.
Thank you.
This was submitted for Peggy Tarr. And the comment is, please adults have your children wear a mask for their protection. Throughout Evanston, I'm seeing lots of adults with masks on and their small children, that's the word, don't have on any mask. So that is Ms. Tarr's comment. It's it.
Great, thank you.
Folks. And that is the end of the written comments that I've received.
Great, thank you, Clerk Reed, and thank you for people that wrote in to the clerk so it can be entered into the record this evening. Luke, do we have anyone else on the line for public comment?
Hi, Mayor. Mayor, we have Lori Keenan.
All right, welcome, Ms. Keenan.
Thanks. Am I live now?
You are on with the City Council. Welcome.
Okay. So, first of all, I hope everyone is staying safe and that their families are well. I know everyone has concerns personally, but also across the city. I find it really unusual that the city is going ahead with just business as usual at a time that resident priorities are necessarily on more dire issues. It seems especially tone deaf given the circumstances. And I'm wondering, is that what disaster response best practices dictate to forge ahead with development discussions and other sort of unpressing issues for especially development and construction in a climate that may be forever changed? We don't even know what downtown Evanston is going to look like when this is all said and done. The numbers of restaurants or businesses that may be out of business. I think that this would be a better time to hit pause and see what shapes out before making any further decisions. I can't imagine that the meeting is being well attended. The president was just on a press conference, saying that he has total authority over the states. That is where our attention should be right now. What's going on nationally is much more important, and the health of all of us is much more important than development in downtown Evanston that we don't even know what a downtown Evanston is going to look like. I can't imagine that the public is even paying attention. It was very difficult, even though you're all trying hard, it was very difficult to even be able to get into the meeting and make this comment. And that just in terms of priorities, the public is having to deal with so many other issues, important health issues, the logistics of homeschooling kids, online, and myriad other much more pressing issues. And I'm wondering if maybe that was the point. If you know, does this even need to be happening? Unless you guys are discussing emergency, you know, COVID-19 response, then really what is the point of hosting these meetings? So thank you for your time. And I hope that going forward, unless you have really dire and emerging needs to discuss public health issues, that you would refrain from hosting any more city council meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Luke, do we have another speaker?
Mayor, we have Kira Kelly.
Welcome, Kira.
Thank you, Mayor. And I hope, as I'm coughing, I hope that you and everyone on City Council is healthy and stays healthy. But really, Evanston residents are, I'm going to reiterate a lot of what Lori discussed. Evanston residents are stressed right now and overwhelmed. We're trying to manage our families' lives, health, safety, especially our older family members, homeschooling children. I have 4 that I'm trying to homeschool right now. So many other logistics. And worse, some of us are without paychecks, food, shelter, or being struck ill by the virus. The very last thing we expected City Council would be doing right now is advancing the approval process of enormous development projects, like the 19-story high-rise office building, a controversial large development on Ridge Avenue, and changing the code to transfer more power to the mayor, who to vote to select the chairman of the Plan Commission and ZBA, and other such matters. This is the same meeting where I understand that council is calling for an extension of the state of an emergency of our city. In light of all this, aldermen should press pause on non-essential or at least large and controversial projects like this for a few months. It's not putting our head in the sand. It's responsible behavior in a pandemic. And I almost had the same thing that Lori had without knowing anything else is really tone deaf. I now myself am monitoring one of our young sons who has a fever and other symptoms. In contact with a doctor, we're monitoring him. He's probably okay. He seems okay, but we're still nervous, and he could, we're wondering if we're part of this COVID situation ourselves. In a crisis like this, residents, especially, here I am very involved in these issues. We don't have time to engage. We don't have it in us to engage with the city on controversial developments like this, or power, transfers, or, coach houses or anything else. We should not be asked by the city council to do this. Again, I do have a lot to say about this 19-story building. I know a lot about it. It has 6 variances from our zoning code. The FAR is so big that it's going to prompt a 2/3 majority vote, and the city staff even had concerns about this. We're supposed to be following our zoning codes, and there's no reason not to tell the developers that they must adhere to it. You can approve it, but why not adhere to the zoning code? Anyway, going back to the residents aren't able to attend these, as Lori mentioned also. The Plan Commission meeting that I too thought May 11th, I didn't want to go to the meeting myself. The next day at Jewel, the entire bread aisle was out. That meeting should not have happened, but nonetheless it did, and it was a full house for the Ridge Avenue development. But yet no one spoke today in the planning and development virtual meeting. People are underwater. They're trying to stay afloat. They don't even know these meetings are happening, or you guys would be pushing through something like this. The city must also study the post-pandemic landscape of the office market to see if this is viable. I don't know if you're not seeing the media coverage that I am, but many experts say the office market could change forever because of the widespread working at home. Companies are seeing that as a potential benefit for them. We really need to be responsible and press pause on these until at least the state of emergency is lifted. We see attention, dedication, and seriousness on resident priorities from Mayor Lightfoot, Governor Pritzker, and other leaders that are inspiring us and getting us through this. They're not advancing construction deals while we're stressed out or not looking. I really ask you to press pause on this kind of business right now and focus on COVID and focus on essential business. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. All right, Luke, do we have another?
Mayor, the last person is Carlos Sutton.
Okay, great. Welcome, Carlos. You're on with the City Council.
Good evening. I just want to comment on the proposed townhouse at 1930 Jackson. I feel at this time we should put a pause upon that until we prioritize the available house landlords have available for under market to give some assistance to them. And I would appreciate if stakeholders would continue being informed when these kinds of projects are going up so we can make comment on them. Thank you.
Thank you, all right. Thank you, everybody, for your public comment, both written via Zoom and just via the telephone.
Mayor Haggerty, I apologize. Clerk Reed, I just got a message from a resident who said she'd sent you a comment that didn't get read from Ms. Hillman.
I just received it at 7:14.
Okay, all right. I didn't. She said she sent it earlier. I didn't know what the situation was.
Okay, if she did, then it must have been sent quite a while ago. All right, I apologize. If I can, I'll read it into the record.
Just the context. So yeah, bring it in. Bring it on in. Yep. And this is from Debbie Hillman. Who's this from?
Yes, from Debbie Hillman. The summary is along the lines of, I'll just read it. Thanks to Evanston Economic Development Director Paul Zamozak for all of the effort he and his department have put into supporting Evanston's local economy, especially the food and farm businesses. Evanston is truly a regional food hub, and I count myself lucky to have lived in the middle of it, Maine Dempster Mile, for the last 40 plus years. Along the lines of supporting all residents, businesses, and workers in Evanston, my comment is a referral about two funding mechanisms that may not be well known to city officials. Both mechanisms are operationalized at the state level and are contained in a bailout plan for local economies. The plan was just released last Thursday by the Public Banking Institute. Although the plan is published as an open letter to Congress, the two funding mechanisms do not need additional congressional authorization. According to the short, easy to understand plan, U.S. states have two ways of increasing the already authorized emergency funding, accessing 0% loans from the Fed for 6 months or more under a particular section of the Federal Reserve Act, and creating a state public bank using the state's emergency executive powers. Below is the exact wording from PBI's letter to Congress, and so attached there is a copy of that letter. And the last, she says that we need to get more money to these states. So the copy of what was written in the PBI letter will be in the entered into the record and into the minutes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, I have one last comment from Lorianne Kloss from Red Door Animal Shelter, her rabbit rescue team. She just wanted to share the final numbers from Easter 2019, Easter 2020. They rescued an astonishing 334 pet rabbits that were dumped outside when they should have died. An additional 533 owners surrendered requests. Please support HS3 so we can put a dent in these terrible numbers in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And thank you, everybody, for your comments. We're now going to move on to the agenda. We're going to move first to special orders of business. So all of the council members, I believe, have the agenda in front of them or on their iPad. So I'm going to call on you at different points to introduce and move items. So this first item, SP1, I'd like Alderman Ravel to move that item.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item relates to an application for an appeal of the Preservation Commission's denial of economic hardship. And this is for the property at 2404 Ridge Avenue. And I move to hold this until our next regular meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, yeah. All right. So the item's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? What I'd ask is, with Zoom, there's the reactions down there. If you just want to maybe put your hand up when you want to talk, and then I'll just keep track of that and call on folks that way.
I think a motion to hold, and once it's seconded, it's done.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. So that item is held. Okay. Alderman, was there anything else you needed to do on that item, Alderman Ravel?
Not on that item, no.
Okay. All right. We're going to move then to SP2. Alderman Ravel, would you move that one?
Right. So this, let me just get to my agenda here. So this is in regard to the special use application from St. Athanasius for an expansion of its off-street parking at 2503 Eastwood Avenue. And so my motion is that I move that the City Council accept St. Athanasius' withdrawal of its application for a special use to expand the off-street parking at 2503 Eastwood Avenue.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to mention that a main argument, in my view, for the proposed expansion of the number of parking spaces was to provide additional parking for the teachers and staff who currently park in the main parking lot. And this would allow then the south half of the main parking lot to be a car-free play area for students during school hours. But over the past number of weeks, St. Athanasius has been actively discouraging unauthorized vehicles from parking in that main parking lot. And as a result, there is currently already enough room for the teachers and staff to park along the north side of that lot. And so they don't really need to add those extra parking spaces at 2503 Eastwood. So that's the reason for the withdrawal of their special use application.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, can you take the roll, please, on SP2?
Yes, Alderman Fisk. I'm sorry. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Aye. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
I'm sorry, is Alderman...
Alderman Fisk, you're muted. You're muted, Judy. We can't hear you. Unmute.
You can give a thumbs up if you want to say yes. All right.
She's giving a thumbs up, but I want to make sure that she can talk later on.
Yes.
Can you unmute, Judy?
Luke might be able to unmute her.
Luke, is there?
Okay.
All right.
I got it.
All right.
Thanks.
Alderman Fisk is back, and she voted yes. Okay, so SP2 Ordinance 166-0-19 passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote.
Well, no, not quite. I mean, I didn't move approval of the ordinance. I just moved that we accepted the St. A's withdrawal of its application for a special use.
For the acceptance of the withdrawal, yes.
Right. Okay.
All right.
And then I do have a second motion because we still have that original ordinance 166-0-19 to dispose of.
Good.
So if you're ready, I move to withdraw the motion on ordinance 166-0-19 that was tabled at our city council meeting on March 9th.
Second.
Okay.
Because basically we do need to dispose of that ordinance, that motion that we tabled.
Any discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Yes. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Rue Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. Aye. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 9-0. We're going to move to SP3. 33, Alderman Rainey, could you introduce that resolution?
Yes, sir. Resolution 33R20, we're being asked to adopt the City of Evanston 2020 through 2024 Consolidated Plan. By adopting this and Resolution 32R20, in approving the reallocation of unspent CDBG funds from the prior year. I want to explain that CDBG 2020 entitlement funds of $1,836,315 and $105,431 in program income and $68,222 in reallocated prior year funds for a total of $2,009,968 was the total CDBG funds. For home funds, 2020 entitlement funds were $364,350 and $27,384 in program income for a total of $391,734. And ESG money is for 2020 entitlement funds of $158,463. I move approval of the various action plans.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Somebody's dog want to discuss?
Yes.
All right. Well, City Clerk, can you please take the, actually, it's a resolution with a lot of numbers. City Clerk, would you take the roll, please, on SB3?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
That was an aye from my dog.
And aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Seems all of our dogs are getting attracted.
Excellent. All right. SB3 Resolution 33-R-20 passes the City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to move to item SP4. Alderman Sufferton, could you move that item?
Sure. Item SB4 is Resolution 35R20, authorizing the city manager to sign a license agreement allowing a fence to be repaired and replaced in the alley right-of-way at 3434 Park Place.
Second.
Second. Perfect. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. SP4 Resolution 35-R-20 passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. Alderman Wilson, could you move SP5?
Yes, SP5, I'm not muted. Okay, SP5 Resolution 36R20, extending the declared state of emergency to May 11, 2020. Staff is recommending the City Council adoption of the Resolution 36R20, extending the declared state of emergency from April 13th, 2020 to May 11th, 2020. It's for action.
Second.
I got a question.
All right, Alderman Sufferton.
Yeah, can you just once again go over the practical effect of this and why this is superior to just having our regular course of government, especially if we're going to have meetings like this?
I think the biggest thing right now is if we disband the declared state of emergency, I don't want to give anybody the false opinion that somehow we've defeated COVID-19. I mean, that would be one. And then the second, so I think it's really important that everybody around here understand that there's still a state of emergency. We still have a lot of work to do to flatten that curve. And secondly, I think that we want to have the flexibility as we are consistently sort of monitoring the data. If we need to make some additional moves and closing certain things, and we want to move quickly. And this resolution gives us the ability.
Can you give me an example of what you might be considering?
If we close the lakefront, for instance.
Okay, so that would be a decision that you would make unilaterally?
Under this, my understanding, we'd have to ask our city attorney. My understanding is under this declaration, such a decision could be made.
Okay. Now, is there anywhere where we are incongruent with the governor's emergency? I mean, are we doing anything beyond this, what the, when the executive order gave all the essential businesses? Do we have is there anything the city of Evanston is doing that's not being covered under Governor Pritzker's state of emergency?
No, we have not taken any additional actions. People have emailed us and said, oh, you should declare this business non-essential or this or that. We have not. We think, again, the governor has an incredible amount of intelligence and information with his whole public health staff and all the experts that he's consulting and getting information from. So we think it's a reliable source to continue to follow that lead.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, so this was a resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, so resolution 36-R-20 extending the declared state of emergency to May 11th passes. All right. The next item is a discussion item. I'll just go ahead and, how about Alderman Fleming? Could you introduce that item, SP6? You're muted right now.
Sorry about that. SB6 is staff recommending direction from City Council regarding implementation of LEND, Small Business Emergency Loan Program. The funding will be deployed from the Workforce Development line item, which currently has a balance of $100,000. This is just for discussion.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's for action, right?
It's for discussion. I think you're right.
It's for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that it was moved and it was seconded. Erica, do you want to start this or have your staff start?
Hey, quiet. Sure. I will just introduce Paul Zumpfak. This is something that he had brought forward that would make sense for us to consider doing. And if the council decides that they want to proceed, we would bring this back on April 27th with a full resolution. But Paul, you can go ahead now.
Thank you, City Manager Storley. If at any point you can't hear me, just ask me to speak up, please. So we're seeking, as the staff report says, $100,000 to be redeployed from the workforce development line item that we approved Economic Development Committee at the end of 2019. Currently, there are no funds drawn from that particular line item. And this would be really our, for 2020, this would be kind of our only economic development ask. Just to be clear, we'll continue to maintain the entrepreneurship grant program, but we would ask that we move forward with just this $100,000. I don't think there is a better use for the economic development funds right now as we await for the federal loan programs to fund. There's lots of media out there right now. You can just do a Google search. The money has not flowed, and we really think that we can help, especially some of the more low moderate income businesses that we serve in our community. So I wanted to mention, I believe our potential partners, Femke Munting from Lend and Michael Miro will join the call if they're not already in the waiting room. Again, I want to stress that it's designed to fill the immediate need while we wait for federal funds. This $100,000 is going to leverage additional funding from the Lend program and beyond. The Lend program has a number of, it's been around for a while. It has a number of alumni who are eager to help out. So in addition to additional funding from Lend, we're going to tap into their expert alumni network and tie this into a new, I hate to say the word app, but it's going to be a web-based app that the university has deployed for other reasons, but they're going to give it to us to create a new matchmaking system essentially for individuals that need technical assistance. It's going to link them with experts in the community in the Northwestern Global Alumni Network to help with things such as filling out these loan forms, or even just kind of projecting cash flow. It's an emergency, so I'd like to think that we could move this forward as quickly as possible. The first opportunity would be, if not tonight, then we go to April 27th. I'm not if Femke and Michael are on the phone. If I missed anything, I'd encourage you to jump in now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I can hear you. So for people watching from home, if they don't know, this is Michael Miro. And go ahead, Michael.
So good evening. Yes. So I'm Michael Miro, board president of LEND. And it's really an honor to be here tonight. And really what we see, as Paul said, is we know that federal relief is coming. We just see ourselves as being able to help on a very short-term basis to both help businesses in their short-term cash flow needs and also help navigate the very difficult landscape of applying, getting all the paperwork and documentation necessary to apply for all of these loans. We don't have the resources to keep these businesses afloat for, a year, but we can help them on a very short-term basis until federal relief arrives. And I also just want to mention our student president, Femke, is also on the line. Is there anything you wanted to say, Femke?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being given the platform to talk about this, and I always appreciate the feedback the City Council provides. I think one of the things that we really believe as an organization is that it's our responsibility to help businesses, specifically at times like this. I think we've always been oriented towards minority and women businesses, but we really think that we can do some work kind of keeping businesses afloat until federal aid arrives. And partnering that with consulting from our alumni base, I think would enable us to do a lot with the funding. Thank you again.
Thank you. Alderman, I see we got a couple hands up. So Alderman Rainey, and then we'll go to Alderman Lucen.
I think the latter task is absolutely critical. The people that I've talked to are just so overwhelmed and clueless as to what they're eligible for and how to go about applying. And I just think they're so, it's so chaotic that they're probably going to miss out on applying. And so I think if you could corral people and just create some really rigid organizational structure to help them, guide them into applying, just actually applying, and then showing them how to do it. I mean, I think you would be heroes, real live heroes. And because if they apply, they're definitely going to qualify and get money. Yeah. But if they don't, if they're just so anxious and so confused, they're not going to apply and they're not going to get money. So if you could do that, that'd be fabulous.
Completely. We have a decently large alumni network that work with consultants, so 20 to 25 people who work full-time as professional consultants, and almost all of them have said they're willing to get on the phone, email, do research, and just help. I think that's our primary goal at the moment, is how can we keep businesses maintaining revenues and applying for all the funding that they're eligible for, because it's just a waste if they don't, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman Rusin.
Thank you. This partnership is huge. Thank you to Lynn for always being there for Evanston businesses. I want to make a recommendation, or at least bring up for discussion, to consider this to be in the structure of our entrepreneurship support grant in the form of a grant and not a loan. First of all, this fund was for workforce development grant, so we were not looking for repayment of this or any sort of program revenue. And then secondly, the cash is not flowing yet. There are plenty of opportunities, grants and loans out there. From everyone that I've checked in with, no one has been funded or awarded yet at this point. And then many of our smaller businesses, gig workers and micro businesses are not going to meet the threshold to qualify for these programs anyway. So Lynn, as we know them, have a neighborhood business focus, and they have special lending requirements that can be passed along in the form of a grant. So I would ask that we consider awarding this as a grant or some form of a forgivable loan so that we can help support our businesses. You know, it's tough to take a loan out on revenue that is, you know, forever lost during this crisis. So is that something that is something I would like to put up for a discussion, that it can be in the form of a grant or a forgivable loan, and not a traditional loan.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, respond.
Go ahead, Mike.
So yeah, what I would say, Alderman Simmons, is that all of the loans that Lend sort of issues are issued under the understanding that they may end up being forgivable. We do not send, we do not pursue legal action against people that are not able to pay. And, you know, again, the only purpose in structuring them as loans, it would be that if the business is able to repay, if conditions improve, then that money can then go back out into the community and help another business. But in terms of, you know, them being forgivable, we operate under the assumption that because the people, some of these business ventures, you know, maybe, are under a different risk profile than other businesses, the opportunity for them to be forgivable is absolutely there.
Great, thank you, Mike. Alderman Fisk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to thank Paul and all the folks at Lend. And this is just a very, very critical program for us to pursue, and I absolutely support it. Are we looking for a, this is on for discussion, but do we need this to make a motion, or how should we handle this?
I would like to make a motion that it's on for discussion now, but I would like for us to give some sort of direction with action tonight so that we can start to, deliver the grants or the loans sooner than later because the entrepreneurs are in need. Is that an option for us?
Is Kelly there? Where's Kelly or Erica?
Let's go with Erica.
I was going to say that we could do this one of two ways. Because this was properly noticed and was on the agenda for discussion, we could still move forward with some kind of program. If we wanted to put it back on the agenda for the 27th, we could do that as well with the resolution. But because it is on the agenda, we could move forward with action and then start the process, get the ball rolling, know that it's approved, and then formalize it on the 27th.
That's what I would like to do, what you just said.
Okay. Alderman Fleming?
Yes, I have another question. I know that we're not laying out the program necessarily at this point, but I do appreciate Alderman Ruth Simmons' point about a grant or some kind of more forgivable loan. Maybe if we have to market it as a forgivable loan, particularly for our smaller businesses that even once they get through all the government process for applications might not qualify, or we know it's going to take them longer to get back on their feet, even if they do qualify for something. And I think since we have the opportunity to give money much faster than the federal government, I would love to do that in a more forgiving way so that people aren't even concerned about taking the money back from, taking the money from you all, getting the loan from you all, and hesitant because they won't be able to repay it because they don't know when they're going to. If I look at some of these businesses you have on here, like hair salons, I imagine a lot of them don't run with a huge profit, and then they're going to have clients who either don't have money necessarily to come right back once they open or have health concerns about coming right back. So I would love to see these. I appreciate you have some priorities on here, but I would love to see a little bit more focus on those businesses that either aren't going to qualify for as much federal funding, don't have the technology or the skill to do that, or really are going to take a much longer time to get back on their feet, that those loans are really extended to be as forgivable as possible. Or totally forgivable.
I completely agree. I think Lend has always operated on the premise that our loan is the lowest priority in terms of what to pay off. I think the only reason we ever established a loan business rather than a grant business was just so that any money that we receive goes through a cyclical motion, so that anything we're able to get back, we can kind of capitalize on successful businesses and use that new income from that loan to then get out to another business. We are extremely flexible. I get on a phone call all the time with my clients. It's we work on a very individualized basis, and we definitely don't want to be taking income from clients before they're able to. That's the last thing we'd want to do.
So Erica, what do you need? I mean, here is a discussion item. It seems to be a preference to, allow this to be a grant rather than a loan. Do you just want us to take some kind of vote that's giving some direction to the staff right now, or?
Kelly, do you want to opine on what the motion should look like?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I think it should be a motion. Well, it's option A or option B, right? It's the option A is to put it into some sort of an action tonight. Option B would be to give direction to the staff to come back with a more formalized proposal for the next meeting. But either way, it's a motion.
I think the preference. I thought the preference was because again, it's so urgent right now to wait 2 weeks in the midst of everything that's going on. Seems like we could do a lot more good if we can get it passed tonight, or at least
you can do that.
give
So
firm
we need
direction.
a motion, a second,
and
then a vote.
Okay, somebody want to move a motion?
I move that we move forward with action approving $100,000 from our workforce development fund to provide grants to Evanston businesses in partnership with Lynn.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rain.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk Reed and everybody. That motion to move $100,000 from the workforce development line item into a COVID-19 grant and emergency loan program, grant program passes the City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to move to SP7, which is the Capital Improvement Plan project schedule discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to our city manager to help lead us through this discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are just 4 short months into the year, and we're already having to drastically change what we had originally intended to do for projects for the current year due to the dramatic effect the financial picture of the city will be taking because of the pandemic. So staff has prepared a presentation tonight with some recommendations about some projects that could be postponed. And we collaborated with both finance and Parks and Rec and engineering and city manager's office to determine which ones made most sense based on whether or not we had grant funds or the condition of certain assets and the dire need for some of these things to move forward, and then whether or not we had staff capacity to continue to move them forward. So Lara Biggs was going to do a presentation, and I will turn it over to her at this point.
Thank you. Is this sharing my screen? Yes. Okay. So as we looked at our Nope. Technical difficulty. Hold on. So following the governor's executive order, construction is classified as an essential order of business. So that includes infrastructure that is buildings, streets, water main, sewer, all public works construction. So basically, almost every type of work that we do in engineering would classify as, under the governor's order, as protected as essential business. We looked at what the Chicago area is going to be doing for the construction industry to see what similar projects are moving forward or not. So the Illinois Department of Transportation is basically proceeding as is with their full construction program. They're continuing with projects. They've just recently awarded the Howard Street project That's going to be beginning on-site construction, most likely the week right after the 4th of July. Central Street Bridge is getting ready to be advertised for construction. That is also a federally funded project, so it's being managed by IDOT. And then they are doing a project completely separate from us on Gulf Road, which is Waukegan Road to McDaniel Avenue, where they're doing general resurfacing, curb repairs, ADA work. And that work is actually expected to, the project is starting this week. They won't be in Evanston necessarily this week, although they will be here shortly. We also received the results of the Northwest Municipal Conference Survey of 22 suburbs that we received the results April 8th. All of those suburbs are indicating they're moving forward with construction. Most are not qualifying that they're looking at delaying projects in any way, and many of them have already awarded projects and are continuing forward. In our case, there are different types of projects or projects in different phases to be considered. First, with ongoing construction contracts where we both ourselves and the contractor have entered into a signed executed agreement, it becomes a little bit murky trying to stop those projects. It puts out there a potential for change order requests for delays and force majeure or no force majeure. There is these contractors have basically entered into a fixed price contract in most cases. And when there are delays, then they will use that opportunity, most likely to file a lost time claim to cover their costs. So it's not ideal to mess with our ongoing construction contracts. But separate from that, once a project is in construction, stopping it causes its own situation. And I would look at like the Oakton construction that's ongoing with the Lincolnwood connection. We may very well have the right to stop it if we want. However, it is not ideal to leave Oakton Street disrupted, having the public way impaired in any way. So in most cases, it is better to just plow through the construction contracts that are already out there and get them done as much as we can in a reasonable way. Also, critical infrastructure projects, and I would say that is most of our work. Our capital projects, or capital fund, as you know, is focused largely on doing work where things have definitely deteriorated to a place where we need to move forward. We aren't funding frivolous projects in general. So we have to be careful on projects that are related to critical infrastructure, water main, sewer work, our streets. There could be a very direct impact on the quality and safety for our residents. In some cases, such as where we have a known leaking roof, we would likely have a more expensive repair if we substantially delayed the work that we were already planning. And then in general, capital projects, as you know, have a life. Typically, we're spending 1 to 3 years of planning and design time in order to be ready for future construction. If we were to stop every project that's in the design phase right now and not proceed with any planning or design, then that could potentially cause our ability to deal with things in the future to be impacted, including if there is upcoming infrastructure legislation to fund more and more grants for economic development, basically through construction. So we would generally recommend in most cases that we move forward with planning design, which is a relatively low cost compared to the actual construction itself. Oops. However, having said that, there are some very specific funding source impacts that we need to be cognizant of, particularly in our 2020 general obligation bonds. That includes the tax levy bonds, which is what we typically refer to the 2020 GO bond, but also bonds related to water and sewer projects are sold each year in lower amounts. We generally pay for construction for the parking fund from the cash balance of the parking fund, and with the revenues being impacted, we believe that that's something we really need to be careful about. We also have staffing that is less available. We actually have 2 ongoing emergencies, the shoreline condition assessment and the COVID response, where staff are spending some devoted time to things that were basically unplanned. So We attached a spreadsheet into the memo, and this is just a summary of some of the major highlights of the types of projects we would recommend to move forward. Howard Street and Central Street Bridge are projects where there's a lot of federal funding and a lot of coordination that was wrapped up into it, and to stop it, it is unclear if we would retain the funding. The MFT street resurfacing is funded by motor fuel tax dollars that are generally devoted to MFT repairs, to street repairs, and so there isn't particularly another use for that type of funding. We have a couple of projects that are similarly funding with Community Development Block Grant, Butler Park improvements. There is an alley improvement that's being funded that way. That funding is more or less dedicated and is not expected to be impacted. The Civic Center boiler, we did one emergency repair prior to last winter. We actually have another repair that we need to try to complete before this winter, which is to replace the burners of the two boilers and to retube the two boilers. Both boilers are in poor condition. As you know, this will upgrade them to the point where we hopefully can stop making emergency repairs just for the boilers themselves, although the rest of the HVAC will still need some TLC. And so we would recommend doing that work prior to the winter if we want to use the boilers in the Civic Center next year. And then other things, facilities contingency is typically, it's budgeted at $300,000. We typically increase it to around $600,000 by the end of the year in order to cover unforeseen costs. We do that by utilizing funding from projects that have been delayed or come in under budget. But because we are already reducing the general obligation bond, we would recommend that we just go ahead and increase facilities contingency to $600,000 and then live within that budget. And then other projects such as the service center yard, we'd like to still proceed with a portion of it, but reduce the project scope and funding by approximately half in order to be able to move forward with some repairs that we think are necessary for safety and to reduce wear and tear on our equipment. Similarly, though, we do have projects we recommend to delay. In most cases, these are projects that either have not yet started or where the construction is definitely needed, but we believe it's pretty easy to survive another year without too many impacts. In some cases, these projects might only be delayed basically to get them into the 2021 budget year, which may not be a full 12 months. In other cases, particularly where we're talking about doing public engagement, such as for Beck Park, it might take a little bit longer. That's a case where it would actually just be really challenging to start the project right now because public engagement really is our next step, and it's not the type of environment that we feel that we would get a really good turnout and focus on the project by everybody involved. So downtown transmission main is one where we're in the process of applying for funding, but we believe that is relatively simple to move to the 2021 year and make sure that we get funding for it. Similarly, Lincoln Street Bridge replacement, the parking lot number 54, we would delay 12 months. That's being funded by Parking Fund currently. McCulloch Park, we would finish out the design and then have the plans ready to bid it late in the year to start in next spring construction. Ecology Center, we have discussed moving the design in-house for most of the work, and that will take longer, so we would then be delaying the project again into 2021 or 2022. And the water treatment plant filtration head house, there are tuck pointing and roofing improvements that are needed, but currently the deterioration does not appear to be ongoing. So we again believe that's something that we could delay fairly straightforward. With that, I would like to turn this over to Hitesh to talk about these last couple of slides.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. So as you can see in the slide, based on Lara's priorities, we would reduce our general CIP projects, which are supported by the tax levy by $3.5 million. We would have $1 million reduction in the water projects, and we have no reduction in sewer. This is essentially the money going for the Robert Crown project contribution from the sewer fund. And I think Lara mentioned about this parking fund. There's a reduction of almost $1 million, but it's coming out of the current fund balance, so it's a non-bond. So overall, there is a $4.5 million reduction of the bond amount, and which could essentially kind of equate to around 300,000 plus savings in the annual debt service for the next 20 years. Lara, can you move to the next one? Thank you. Currently, the market is so volatile, municipal securities. Obviously, we got a new financial advisor. The city council approved that in March, the Sphere Financial, very experienced firm dealing with hundreds of communities, and they told me that they had to defer or cancel some of those issues for their municipal clients. And so I've been working with them for last week or 10 days, and looks like that we can sell the bonds in mid-August and close the deal in the first week of September. CIP fund is in a good, like kind of having healthy fund balance as cash balance. Lara is okay with the timing. Dave Stonebaker, I think he's okay with the timing based on the current cash and fund balance in the CIP as well as the water fund. And by doing this way in mid-August and September, we hope that the market has kind of settled down with some kind of a strong demand for municipal securities, as well as we can save thousands of dollars in the bond issuance cost. Any questions from anyone?
No, gotta do what you gotta do.
Erica, is that it for the presentation? Because maybe we can take well, if anybody wants to go, we can look at any of the screens. Is there any questions or discussions about what has been presented? Alderman Fleming?
Yeah, I have a question, and I sent these to staff ahead of time, but they weren't addressed. So, Laura, I have some questions about some particular projects that are moving forward based, on your chart here.
Yes.
And I guess we're not necessarily voting on them now, but I can just tell you what they are, and you can give me more information later. There is $75,000 for landscaping at McCormick and Simpson, and I just was trying to understand if that was something that was necessary now.
So that's actually on Green Bay Road at Simpson. Yes. So that is money that was actually sold in bonds years ago to pay for the Emerson Ridge Green Bay Road project. And what happened was that there was a non-performance of the landscaping according to contract. The contractor planted the wrong plants, but it was murky about whose fault it was. There's a lot of finger pointing. In order to resolve it, IDOT basically reduced our contract amount for the contractor by $75,000 and then basically suggested that we just go fix the problem. So that money is not new bond money. It's just money that has been already dedicated to the Emerson Ridge Green Bay Road project. However, we can proceed however the city council likes on any of the projects.
Well, when IDOT gave us, the money back for the error, did they say it needs to be used in that same space again?
I would have to look and determine what the commitment is, but I do believe it was pretty clear that they expected us to fix this problem.
Okay. Obviously, with our budget deficit coming, I'm just making sure that what we're spending is necessary right now. Another question I had, and this is probably, for the Ridge, so it says Ridge traffic signals, I think it was $175,000. And I know we've done some extensive work on Ridge to keep accidents down. I don't remember if we've ever done I don't know if it was called a traffic signal study, but I guess I'm interested in just more information via email or now regarding, is that something we need to move forward on now, given all the work we've already done on Ridge?
So that actually is a project that's already under contract, and it's, again, not being funded with this year bond money, but with bond money that was already dedicated. And we received a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, and where we originally planned to do a traffic study for $175,000 and come up with a list of recommendations, the grant is basically covering the intersection improvements as well as the study. And so our $175,000 is now just the match for the grant.
Okay.
And so we're currently we are just getting agreements approved by IDOT because that process took a very long time. And the study itself is actually about to start.
Okay. Another question, this might be for Mr. Hemingway if he's on here. Well, actually, I'll ask you this last one I have for you. So Civic Center, I think it's planning and design for $500,000. And I know that last year we talked about what to do with the Civic Center, and I think it was going to be on some future agenda. So I just want to get information about spending $500,000 on design and planning if we haven't made a long-term decision yet.
So that money is $250,000 in 2019 general obligation bonds and $250,000 in 2020 general obligation bonds. In order to repair the boilers, it will need to come out of that pool of money. We are estimating the cost of that to be approximately $190,000 to $200,000 to do the boiler repairs. After that, if that money is available, but would only be used really at the direction of the city manager and the city council, we don't have a specific project set up for it to be used for. But depending on what happens with the Civic Center discussion, would then be available to fund whatever the next step is.
Okay, so we're only spending $200,000 on the boiler at this point.
Yes, that project is about to be advertised for bid. No, okay. The project we're about to receive bids on. So we should have that information within the next 4 to 6 weeks for the city council.
Okay, well, that makes more sense than design and planning. All right, so my question regarding parks is we have $300,000 for Butler Park, and when I wasn't even sure where that park was, but when I looked on the park scorecard from several years ago, it already had a score of over 80, 70 years ago. I mean, not 70, several years ago. And we have a lot of parks that were like down in the 60s and 70s on their score. So I'm concerned why we're spending $300,000 on a park that was rated fairly well and either holding that money or not spending it in parks where the score was pretty low.
That park has a very specific drainage problem. A lot of our parks have drainage problems, and we don't really work to fix most of them. In this particular case, people's property actually butts up against the park, and our park is flooding and causing some property damage, potentially, to private property. And so we actually applied for a community development block grant fund. So that money is not general obligation bond, but is through the CDBG fund in order to do it. Because we're there, if the budget allows, we would also recommend converting the light fixtures from the old style fixture to just replacing the heads to be LED and more energy efficient, but only if the budget were to allow it. So
okay.
That's what that project is.
Okay, and then my last one, thank you for being so thorough with these, is it's a small amount, but it's $30,000 for public art. Is that an art project that we've already committed to? I didn't know if it was part of the James Park or not James Park, Robert Crown or some other art that we've already committed to purchasing.
I will need to check on that. That money is basically assigned to the Public Arts Commission so that they may then contract for arts how they choose. So it is usually used in recent years for things like the mural program and other types of art installations. I'm not certain with where they are in their contracting, but I can follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Erica, in regards to the community development block grant, because of the COVID-19 crisis, didn't they amend the rules to say that you could go back with existing CDBG money and reallocate or reassign it? In essence, almost amend your action plan?
Yes, there has been some changes to that, and Sarah can speak to that. But before I ask Sarah to speak to that, I'm going to ask if Laura can turn off the screen sharing on her computer.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yes, give me a sec.
More.
Sorry.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sarah. You're muted, Sarah. Unmute.
Okay. That work?
Yep, perfect. Yep. You're on.
We actually just got some useful guidance from HUD at 5:55 p.m. tonight. We still have to get our 2020 action plan approved, and all of these things are in the 2020 action plan, the things that we were discussing. Then if we choose to change them, we can then do that in a much shorter time frame. But that is not an approved plan right now. We are going to be getting additional CDBG through the CARES Act, and that is a little over $1 million. That we just found out that we can amend our 2019 action plan, so we may actually be able to make decisions with that more rapidly to address other needs. But yes, we can go back and reallocate things, or 2020 money, but we have to get the action plan approved first, and then we can amend it. And there will be especially with what they're calling CDBG CV, which is the additional funding, there is no public services cap in that funding, and it will be much more flexible. Some of those things will also be carried over into entitlement funding. We don't have all the details from HUD yet.
Great, and thank you. Seems silly, right, that we have to go issue an action plan for 2020 when COVID-19 has already happened and we know we might want to allocate that money differently.
Yeah, it is. It's weird.
Any other discussion on this? Okay. Then Erica, I think you got a general.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to now move on to the consent agenda. Let's see, Alderman Fleming, you are now the APW chair, correct?
I don't know. Maybe. Last meeting we had, it was still Alderman Rainey, so.
Okay.
I guess it could be me.
What's that?
It switched for first meeting. Sorry, I forget. No.
Oh, all right.
So wait, it is Alderman Fleming. Then, correct. Okay, then Alderman Fleming, what I'd like to do, because we didn't have APW today, is why don't you, I'm going to have you start with the minutes and go through the minutes and then to the APW agenda and just hit the title and the amount on each of these. And then if aldermen want to pull something off, just go ahead and say, I'd like to kick that off. We normally do.
Okay, just give me 1 minute to get to that page.
Okay, while she gets on that page, with regard to M2 and M3,
yeah.
If we could just have the city clerk, you're still there? You're on a different screen, I guess.
I'm sorry.
Hi. For the March 17th and the March 26th meeting minutes, could you have those amended so that they include the motion to suspend the rules to allow for the remote meetings?
Yeah, if you just want to make the motion and then we approve them, it'll be reflected.
Okay, so I move that we amend those meeting minutes to include the motion to suspend the rules, which was made at the time of those meetings, but it's not in the minutes. So if we could have the meeting minutes amended.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those will be amended for that.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Wilson, which ones were those? M1 and
M2 and M3.
M2 and 3.
Okay, so now I'll just read them as part of the consent agenda.
Yep.
All right. So, Mr. Mayor, I am going to read the consent agenda, starting with M1, which is approval of minutes of the regular city council meeting from March 9th, 2020. M2 is the approval of minutes from special city council meeting we had on March 17th, 2020. M3 is the approval of minutes of special city council meeting from March 26th, 2020. A1 is approval of city council payroll and bills. Staff recommends city council approve payroll and bills for the period March 2nd through March 15th, 2020 in the amount of $2,760,592.88 and March 16th through March 29th, 2020 in the amount of $2,743,150.98. And the bills list for April 14th, 2020 in the amount of $5,078,039.93. A2 is the approval of purchase of security information and event management platform. The council is recommended to authorize the purchase of the security and event management platform in the amount of $44,206.30. A3 is the approval of contract.
Please, Alderman Fleming.
All right, A3 is off. A4 is the approval of contract award with GZA Geoenvironmental Incorporated for the public canoe launch feasibility study. This was done in RFP 20-13. Staff recommends that we authorize city manager to execute this contract in the amount of $29,946. Funding will come through a grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Coastal Management Program and a donation from the Evanston Environmental Association. A5 is approval of contract with Granite Inliner LLC for the 2020 CIPP Sewer Rehabilitation Program. It was bid number 20-12. We are recommended to authorize city manager to execute the 2020 CIPP Sewer Rehabilitation Contract in the amount of $497,831. Funding coming from the sewer fund. A6 is approval of contract award with Builders Asphalt for single sole purchase of hot mix asphalt. We are being recommended to authorize city manager to execute a 1-year sole source contract in the amount of $51,000. Funding will come from 3 separate accounts: the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund. A7 is approval of 1-year contract extension with Precision Pavement Marking Incorporated for 2020 pavement marking program. We're executing, giving city manager authority to execute a 1-year contract in the amount of $111,000. Funding is going to come from the Capital Improvement Fund 2020 general obligation bonds. A8 is the approval of contract award with Ozinga Ready Mix for single source purchase of a concrete. We are authorizing city manager to execute this 1-year contract with Ozinga in the amount of $45,000. Funding will come from 3 separate sources: general fund, water fund, and sewer fund. A9 is approval of contract award with Viasala Incorporated for the sole source lease of Viasala Road Weather Information System. City manager is executing a 5-year sole source contract to lease a real-time road observation service in the amount of $60,000. Funding is coming from the 2020 general obligation fund. General fund. A10 is for the approval of change order number 2 to the agreement with Boulder Contractors Incorporated for the Oakton Street Water Study Connection. We are authorizing city manager to execute as change order 2 in the amount of $156,195.13. This will increase the overall contract to $2,879,070.37. Funding is coming from the water fund. A11 is resolution 31-R-20, authorizing the settlement and release of all claims in Lamister versus City of Evanston et al. This is a settlement payment pursuant to settlement agreement. Funding will be provided from the insurance fund settlement cost. A12 is ordinance 41-0-20, amending city code section 7. I'm sorry, I lost track because I was reading. Can we pull A11? I'm going to pull A11 off, please. A12 is ordinance 41-0-20, amending city code section 7-4-1, permit required fees, bonds, to designate the public works director as the approval authority to excavations and restrict excavations in the winter months. This is for introduction. A13 is ordinance 45-0-20, authorizing the city to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency Water Pollution Control Program. This is borrowing money for the construction of a large diameter sewer rehabilitation at Greenleaf. This ordinance authorizes the city to borrow $2 million. This is for introduction and action as requested by the staff at the Rules Committee. A14 is also Alderman Wilson's requesting suspension of rules for introduction and action. This is ordinance 40-0-20, Class C liquor license increase at Riza Restaurant. This would increase the liquor license from 19 to 20 at Riza's Restaurant. A15 is ordinance 20-0-20, amending Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 1, stopping, standing, or parking prohibited in specific places. This will initiate a fee of $55 for cars parked, for our fee for obstructing traffic, mostly in the bicycle, for parts of the bike lane. A16 is ordinance 20-0-20, requiring sidewalk installation or replacement of substandard sidewalks wherever new construction is erected. This is for action. A17 is ordinance 27-0-20, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 10, limited parking, and Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 18, residents only parking. And this will apply to parking districts H and District 6. A18 is ordinance 36-0-20, amending City Code subsection 7-10-3, general regulations, and 7-11-12, areas prohibited for bathing purposes by preventing access to lake revetment along the lakefront. This will allow city staff to change our code and to place some signage up at the lakefront. And the funding is coming from the general fund.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Sufferton, could you take us through planning and development?
Sure. Item P1 is approval of application of home community housing development organization funds to construct a coach house for affordable rental by Housing Opportunity Development Corporation.
Can we take that off the
Of course.
agenda, please?
Sure. Item P2 is ordinances.
Tom, could you take, Tom,
Yeah, we'll pull.
could you take P,
Yes.
could you take P2, P3, and P7 off, please?
Okay. P4 is ordinance 52-0-20, special use for planned development located at 1555 Ridge Avenue. P5 also has a request for suspension of the rules for introduction and action for ordinance 42-0-20, extending the time for the applicant to obtain a building permit for 2425 Oakton Street. P6 is ordinance 33-0-20, extending the time for the applicant to obtain a building permit for 910 and 938 Custer Avenue. P7 is off. And that's it.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Braithwaite, could you take us through Human Services Committee?
You know what, Mayor, unfortunately my agenda's offline, so I don't have it in front of me.
No.
Someone else want to take it?
Yeah, we'll give it, let's see, Alderman Fisk, could you take us to Human Services?
Sure. HS1 is
Can I
approval.
take that one off, please?
Okay. Does anybody want HS2 off? It's Resolution 3R20, approval of the City of Evanston donation policy. It's for action. And I'm taking HS3 off. And that's the end of Human Services.
Could you go ahead and, Alderman Fleming, could you do the Rules Committee?
Rules Committee, R1, approval of revised 2020 City Council meeting schedule. And that is in the packet for those who are interested in new dates.
Can you do the consent agenda, please?
Oh, me? I'm sorry. Consent agenda is appointments. APP1 is approval of MWEBE Committee and Economic Development appointments. The mayor is recommending the council approve following two appointments: Gretchen Kleinhardt for the MWEBE Committee and Scott Agawa to the Economic Development Committee.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second to the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay. Alderman Wilson, could you just suspend the rules and allow for action and introduction?
Let's see, do I have to list them all, or?
You don't have to list them, but if they're on the consent agenda,
So for the previously designated items with requests for suspension of the rules, I move that we suspend the rules to allow for introduction and action as to those items.
Second.
Any discussion? It's seeing none. I forget. Can I do a
roll call
vote?
Roll call.
I have to do roll call. Okay. City Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Alderman Fisk,
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman White,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Alderman Lou Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin,
Aye.
Alderman Ravel,
Aye.
Alderman Ray,
Aye.
and Alderman Floyd.
Aye.
All right, so on a 9-0 vote, the rules were suspended to allow for introduction and action of the designated items on the consent agenda. There was a motion that was seconded to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no discussion, City Clerk, you can take the roll on the consent agenda.
Alderman Fisk,
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen,
Aye.
Alderman Wilson,
Aye.
Alderman Lou Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin,
Aye.
Alderman Ravel,
Aye.
Alderman Rainey,
Aye.
and
Aye.
The consent agenda passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to move to the items that were taken off. I don't know if Lemmy can give us the A3. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm coming. My computer's very slow. A3 is approval of contract award with Suburban Tree Consortium for the purchase of trees for the 2020 spring planting in the amount of $39,900 for action.
Second.
Okay. If we go for discussion, Alderman Suffredin.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to say, I mean, despite how we all feel about trees, it's $40,000 in general fund money. Is there any downside to holding off on this? We're in a much different situation than we were when this was planned.
Okay. Alderman Rainey.
Well, we order these trees well in advance. They're grown at our request.
City, but at work. All right.
Anyway, we've long been way behind in the planting of trees, and if ever we need evidence of new growth and greenery, it's now. And this is something that we planned for. It's been budgeted for. I would plead with the rest of the council, please don't put this off. It includes some planting. It also includes donations that people have made for, expedited replanting. So please vote yes.
Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Did you want
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I thought I saw your hand up. Did you
Oh, no, I thought we were voting.
All right. Any other, Alderman Wilson?
So I guess just to follow up what Alderman Rainey was pointing out, but it's part of a consortium, and we've committed to pre-ordering, and it looks like they grow these trees in advance for our future orders. So it seems to me that backing out of the consortium would probably not be in line with what we've agreed to already. So that's all.
All right. Thank you, Alderman. All right. Any other discussion?
And they're distributed citywide. I mean, everybody gets them.
Erica? Go ahead, Erica.
I was just going to say that Dave Stombeck is here to answer the questions about whether or not this could be delayed and what ramifications that would have.
I think that would be good. Dave? You're on mute right now. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. We could delay this project. I would feel bad for the people that did pay for the express plant. And then there are certain trees that we only want to purchase in the spring season. And there's 66 of those types of trees in here, including oaks and plane trees. These are trees that the nurseries only excavate in the spring. You could potentially buy them in the fall, but they would have been removed in the spring and bagged and sitting on the ground, which would not help to get a healthy tree. So we recommend that at a minimum, we purchase those 66 trees and the 5 on the express purchase. But overall, we think that it's appropriate to do this. I also want to caution, though, on February 24th, the City Council approved a contract award to Herrera construction. They would, right now our plan is to have them plant 150 trees of the 189 that we're purchasing. So that would cost an additional $23,700 above the purchase of the trees. So I'm just trying to give you all the facts so that you know them.
Thank you, Dave. Director Stoneback, Alderman Suffren.
Sorry, Dave. So we're really looking at like a $63,000 expense between the trees and the planting.
That is correct, between the purchase and the planting.
Okay, contractually, we could back out of it now and not pay any penalty either to the nursery or the construction company.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Part of the purchase of these trees includes some planting.
It does not. This cost of the $39,900 is only to purchase the trees. We stopped using the consortium for planting because we didn't feel that they did it appropriately.
Okay.
So, as indicated earlier, we awarded the planting to Herrera.
Okay, all right. So anyway, let's get these trees planted.
Alderman Wilson.
So is a Herrera a local contractor? I'm just not familiar.
They're in Skokie that has the Evanston zip code.
Okay. And if we didn't do the planting, I assume we'd have to refund the express purchases, right?
Yes, that we would have to do.
Okay.
How much would that be?
It looks like 2,500.
That's correct.
All right. Any other discussion? Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, so I agree in that we have to save as much money as we can. I think we all get that. I'm hesitant to not go for it with Herrera. I don't know how much business they have in general. I definitely, torn, I don't want to spend the money, but I also don't want to then penalize a local business who probably is depending on this, $25,000, since they are an essential business. I know that some of the trees that were prepaid, a small number of them, there was a fundraiser and, the block pulled together to purchase these trees. I don't know if it's still on their radar now, but, if we don't purchase them now, I don't think we're necessarily going to be in the best shape. I don't know what our financial shape is next year to go ahead and purchase them. So I do understand Alderman Suffern's concern about spending the money. I would like us to look at cutting maybe some bigger cost and moving forward with this one, at least with the local contractor to plant the trees that people have prepaid for.
Thank you. All right, seeing no more discussion, this item was moved and seconded. City Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Yes. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. I'm sorry, Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
No.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right, so A3, approval of a contract award with the Suburban Tree Consortium for the purchase of trees for the 2020 spring planting passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-1 vote. We're now going to move to A11. Alderman Fleming, could you introduce that?
A11 is Resolution 31-R-20, authorizing the settlement and release of all claims in Leominster versus City of Evanston et al. That's action.
A second.
Second.
I'm sorry, is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Rainey seconded it.
All right. Okay, this is open for any conversation. Alderman Fleming.
And I took it off. I just am going to vote no. I have the same concerns regarding some of the lawsuits that we see come in. I still have concerns if there is something we need to be doing differently with our staff, with some training, management classes, whatever it is, so that we can maybe prevent some of these personnel lawsuits.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, this has been moved and seconded. City Clerk, could you take the roll, please, on A11?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
No.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
No.
All right. A11 Resolution 31-R-20 authorizing the settlement and release of all claims in Lamester versus City of Evanston passes the Evanston City Council on a 7-2 vote. We're going to move now to item P1. Alderman Sufferton, could you read that?
Sure. Item P1 is approval of the application of Home Community Housing Development Organization. I don't have my agenda anymore. Is that good enough?
That's good enough.
Yeah, what we're talking about.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. This is open for discussion.
I need to recuse myself because I'm a member of the Evanston Development Cooperative.
All right. You're recused. Okay. Any other discussion on this item? Alderman Wilson?
I know we talked about this at the committee, but a number of or at least one community member commented on the cost. But I just want people to understand, besides ourselves, that this is money that we can't use for other things like, emergency rent or things of that nature. So this is specifically for this type of thing. There are not a lot of options as far as what it can be used for, but we are restricted in how we can use it because it is money from someone else. So I wanted that to be clear.
Thank you. Alderman Flynn?
I think that Alderman Ruth Simmons was first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was actually before Alderman Wilson, but either way, just wanted to respond to the commenters and in complete agreement with Ms. Payton and Ms. Treadway in the immediate needs in the community. But as Alderman Wilson stated, it's not just limited, it's specifically for Chodos. And if I understand correctly, specifically for development as well. Sarah, is that correct? So
that is correct.
So with that said, unfortunately, we could not use these dollars for some of the other more pressing uses. This would provide another unit for a family. It's 2 bedrooms. It'll be at 60% AMI, and it is going to an organization that is already providing affordable housing. It will show the model of accessory dwelling as a way to expand affordable housing, working with the Evanston Development Cooperation. And for those reasons, I'm in full support. It is the best use of up to $190,000. I don't know what the development cost will be, but I'm hoping that we can get support and move forward. We don't have any other proposed developments for these dollars. The money is there and it is designated for this use.
Thank you. Alderman Flynn?
Yeah, Sarah, can you just, I know you told me this before, but so people watching can understand, why is it a forgivable loan, or what makes it, like, what are the criteria for forgiveness?
What we have traditionally done with our home loans is they have a requirement of, by the home program, when you build new rental construction, they have a 20-year affordability restriction. And at that point, we forgive the loan in full. HODC has done this, has done a number of home projects, and they maintain the housing as affordable going forward because that's their mission. But one of the things that you don't want to do with home funding is you don't want to put longer restrictions on than required by home, because then, for example, if you have any things you need to make any repairs, anything like that, it's very hard to get financing for that. And it also, as I say, with HODC, they are a nonprofit housing owner and developer, and so their mission is to maintain it as affordable. And they've done that with the money we put into the 319 Dempster program. We were out of our affordability clause there, and that's still affordable. Same thing with the multifamily building on Elmwood and Brummel. So, when you work with your affordable housing developers, that's the terms that those funds are generally given at.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. No more discussion. This has been moved and seconded. City Clerk, could you please take the roll on P1, approval of the application of the Home Community Housing Development Organization funds to construct a coach house for affordable rental by Housing Opportunity Development?
Yes. Alderman Fleming. I'm sorry, Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Recuse myself.
Yes, I'm sorry. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right. P1 passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-0 vote with Alderman Ravel recusing herself. Alderman Sufferton, could you move P2?
Item P2 is ordinances 38020, 39020, and 47020, amendments to the boards, committees, and commissions, Plan Commission, ZBA, and Design and Project Review Committee. Staff recommends the City Council adoption of ordinances 38020, 39020, and 47020 with changes to the City Code regarding the establishment of the chair for the Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission, the inclusion of the most recently adopted comprehensive plan, and revisions to the membership of Design and Project Review Committee. For introduction.
A second.
Second.
Okay, this is open for conversation. Alderman Fisk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked for this to be off the agenda. I don't support 38020 or 39020. I just think it sends the wrong message to both the Planning Commission and ZBA. I trust that they can determine who they would like to be chair. And I think that's the better way of going forward with these citizen-based committees.
Alderman Wilson. Oh.
And now just
okay.
Resting.
How about Erica Storley? Is there somebody on your staff that wants to provide background for why this is even up here on our agenda?
I think Johanna can speak to it, but we've had, I'll let Johanna speak to it. Go ahead.
Welcome.
Good evening. So this came about, I think actually after the U2 discussion for the text amendment at Northwestern. Alderman Ravel made a reference for this. One of the challenges with our Plan Commission is that the issues that are before the group require some institutional memory, require challenging processes and procedures, and generally our Plan Commission is good at following them, but the idea was if we had somebody who was not necessarily at the end of their term on the Plan Commission in your 5th or 6th year being and they were elected largely because they had been on the Plan Commission for a long time, that you could have somebody that could have a 3 or 4 year, 3-year term as chair and add a little bit more institutional memory and robustness to that position and leadership. Because often we've had some really good chairs that are only able to serve for 1 year. And I think many of you remember Jim Ford on the Plan Commission and his leadership. He really was only chair for a short period of time in relation to his 6 years on the Plan Commission. So that was the thought there. ZBA has been doing this for years. It's had one chair, and then this would help kind of bring the Plan Commission into the same position as ZBA.
All right. So sorry.
So what's the downside to allowing the respective committees to choose their chair?
Well, the downside, I think, right now is there's often not somebody who wants to volunteer to do it. As we've seen in some of the other challenging Plan Commission items, these are residents who have volunteered their time. They get beat up pretty badly at the Plan Commission by speakers and the long hours. So I think there's been a little bit of a reluctance for people to step forward and offer to be chair. So this, I think, helps identify that person and have them in a position for a little bit longer of a time.
Okay, so so it seems to me that, like, if the mayor picks the person and makes them do it, that might be worse. Mm-hmm. If they're not volunteering, if somebody makes you do it, that seems like that's not ideal. I was on ZBA. It's been many, many, many years, but we would tend to continue with the same chair for periods of time. But that's because I think the group was comfortable with the chair. So my inclination is just to allow the committees to choose their chairs. Okay, so that's my thought.
All right, Alderman Ravel.
Well, perhaps Alderman Wilson, when you were on ZBA, the rule was that the person was chair for more than 1 year. I mean, currently the way it's written for both ZBA and the Plan Commission is they get a new chair once a year. And so it really seemed to me, particularly in watching that one very long and painful Plan Commission meeting about the U2 district, that it really would have been helpful to have a chair who had some kind of longer experience in running that kind of a hearing.
Well, and I think that if we allow them to, serve for more than 1 year, that makes sense also. So I think that let them choose, but allow the person to serve for more than a year. That's what makes sense to me.
Alderman Fisk?
I think the more that we can do not to insert ourselves either as a council or you, Mr. Mayor, into the citizen-based boards and commissions, the better off we are, because I think the citizens tend to look at those committees as more citizens speaking to citizens than the city council or the mayor speaking to citizens. I think that it's just a healthier situation. I understand what Alderman Ravel is saying, but I think they'll work it out. And the people who are there who have the institutional memory or long service will still be on there as board members, even though they might not be in the chair seat.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So seeing no more discussion, City Clerk, you can take the roll on P2 ordinance 38-0-20 and 39-0.
Okay. Can I just make it clear that my objections were to the 38-020 and 39-020. Whatever you want to do for Dapper is fine with me. I don't care about that. But it was just for the two. I think Alderman Suffredin voted against the 47-020, so he might want to do that.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Alderman. Do we have to do these individually, or can we just do them all at once?
Someone can make a motion to anyway.
Well, we have the motion for all of them. We have the motion and the second for all of them.
Divide the question. That's what you do.
I agree. We should vote on. They're separate ordinances, so we should probably vote on each one independently.
All right, then.
If I may.
Say again.
This is Kelly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
When we're going to substitute a motion, we need to amend the original motion. There needs to be a motion made to amend, and then we have to have at least 5 votes to do so.
No, but they're separate ordinances. So you need to divide the question. There's ordinance 20, there's ordinance 38, 39, and 47.
So how about the person who made the motion just withdraw it, and we'll just do separate motions for each one?
That works, yeah.
So who made the motion?
Who made the motion?
Alderman Suffredin. Okay.
All right, I withdraw my motion on item P2.
Awesome. All right, I move that we adopt ordinance 38-020.
Second. All right, seeing no discussion, City Clerk, you take the roll on ordinance 38-0-20.
What is it? Let's see.
Alderman Fisk?
No.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
No.
Alderman Wilson?
No.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
No.
Alderman Suffredin?
No.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
No.
And Alderman Fleming?
No.
All right, so under P2, ordinance 38-0-20 fails to pass the City Council on 7-2.
Okay, and I move that we adopt 39-020.
Second.
Okay, seeing no discussion, City Clerk, you take the roll on 39-0-20.
Alderman Fisk?
No.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Unfortunately, I don't have my agenda in front of me.
This is ZBA, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to follow the discussion.
Oh.
So I'll abstain on this one and just trust the
You can't.
This is just,
I know, unfortunately. So then, as a point of information, can you please reread it? I don't have my agenda up in front of me, so I'm trying to
So Alderman Braithwaite, so the vote basically,
follow along based on the
the
conversation.
vote basically is, if you vote yes, you're saying, hey, I want the mayor to appoint the chair. If you vote no, you're just saying, hey, committee, you guys appoint the chair. That is the way it has been.
Okay.
Appoint the chair.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
You're fine. So you're going to.
Yes, with.
You're fine with the committee appointing the chair?
Yes, that's fine.
That's a no vote. All right.
Okay.
Go on.
Start the roll. Alderman Fisk?
no.
Alderman Braithwaite?
No.
Alderman Nguyen?
No.
Alderman Wilson?
No.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
No.
Alderman Sufferton?
No.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
No.
And Alderman Fleming.
No.
All right. So ordinance 39-0-20 fails to pass the city council on an 8-1 vote.
And so I will move that we adopt 47020, which is different because this isn't a mayor appointment thing. This is just changing some of the aspects of the DAPR committee. So I move that we approve that.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, city clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
No.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right, so 47-0-20 passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-1 vote. Alderman Sufferton, can you take us to P3?
Sure. Item P3 is ordinance 49-020, special use for a planned development and drive-through facility for a financial institution at 605 Davis Street for introduction.
Second.
For a second? Okay. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked for this to be taken off the agenda. I'm going to vote against it for the reasons I stated at PD, but it's for introduction, so I won't belabor that tonight at this meeting.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Wilson.
Okay, thank you. And part of the conversation at P&D, again, not to belabor it, but the staff is going to be working with developers to see if they can come up with a more robust public benefit program.
Any other discussion?
Yeah. And to also,
That's it.
Alderman Rainey.
and a reminder that they're going to work on protecting people from the alley.
Right, that was part of that public benefit, yes.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
That's fine. Just on the public benefit, I would hope that we, the council, weigh in and not led by the staff and the developer alone. So I plan to give some recommendations.
Okay. Any other conversation? Seeing none, city clerk, could you please take the roll on P3 49-0-20? It was moved.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Rainey?
Aye.
And Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
All right, so Alderman Fisk, I just wanted to confirm.
I'm sorry, what did we just vote on? I'm sorry, I was reading.
I thought you said in your comments you were going to vote no.
Yes, it's no. I'm voting no.
You're no. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So just for the record to reflect, Alderman Fisk was a no on P3.
Yeah, thanks.
For introduction, ordinance 49-0-20 passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-1 vote. Alderman Sufferton, could you take us to P7?
Sure. I move item P7, which is ordinance 34-020, amending the zoning map to remove 2044 Wesley Avenue from the West Evanston Overlay District. This is for action.
Your second.
Second.
Okay. Open for discussion. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Do we have any staff presentation or anything on this, or any? No.
There's no, we have nothing for this. This was a committee.
Okay.
Okay. It didn't pass out of committee. It didn't have a recommendation.
Oh, wait, this didn't pass out of committee?
It didn't pass with a recommendation. It passed to city council with no recommendation because it was a tie.
It says the plan commission recommends denial.
That's correct.
Yeah.
She's referring to when it was at Planning and
I'm
Development.
sorry, Planning and Development Committee.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So my comment on this one is in line with the recommendation of denial from the commission, and that we don't have enough information, I believe, from the developer, their intentions, other than kind of a narrative of what the vision might be. I understand that they had pushback about the cost of further due diligence on this project, and that's the practice and the cost of doing business. We have residents in the area, immediate area, that are in opposition to this. And I would ask that the developer take the recommendation of the Plan Commission and work on a plan development proposal and continue working through our process. So I'm not in support of this.
Alderman Ravel.
I agree with Alderman Simmons. It's too open-ended to go ahead with the motion as presented. It'd be much better to be more certain about what the actual development was that was being proposed.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
No,
Alderman Wilson.
I have one question I was curious about. Has the applicant already closed the purchase of the properties? Do we know that? Does staff know that?
We do know that he closed in mid-May last year for $415,000.
Okay.
He is available to answer questions, so we can address him as we move him into the meeting right now.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Rainey.
And I just wanted to have a point of clarification. I thought that I had heard from Alderman Ruth Simmons that she may be recusing herself on this one. So if you could just clarify that for me, that would be helpful.
Sure. I asked staff to clarify the scope of this agenda item, and it does not touch an area that I own property. So there were two different agenda items. There was one previously that was on a block that I own property. This one is specific to the proposal that they're looking at. And if Sarah Flax could correct me on that this is a targeted request for overlay not to be included for the property that he has purchased.
You're muted, Sarah.
Actually, if I can, I would like to defer to Johanna on this one because I'm not directly involved in this particular project other than to look at the affordable housing.
Sure. In terms of targeted property, are you thinking of the NRSA areas, or with what, when you say targeted property, what, can you give me a little more detail?
Sure.
Johanna, maybe it occurred to me, I'm sorry, Alderman Simmons, I think what you're asking about is it's the properties we had targeted through the no cash bid program. Is that what you were referring to?
Well, what I'm specifically, I want to make sure that this request is specific to his properties and that it is not in the entire overlay district or all of the Fifth Ward or anything broad that is specific to his properties.
Oh, I'm sorry, that I can answer. Yes, it's only his properties that are included in this. It is not getting rid of the overlay as a whole.
Right. So I had a call with staff earlier today with Sarah and Melissa Klotz and Melissa Klotz got them to confirm that this was specific to the area in question, the specific property in question.
Yes.
Other,
it is only those specific properties that he owns.
other comments? Anything else on this item? Alderman Fleming?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So Johanna, when, I know we don't usually have one about an overlay, but is our process just very clear? I mean, I guess I can see both sides going forward on this. You do want to know exactly, or at least a better idea of what he's thinking to build. But I could see, and I don't know the cost, but you know, a individual is concerned about moving forward with the whole scale and design and whatever that cost is, just to maybe then get denied for the overlay and not being able to move forward. So I just want to make sure we have whatever process is very clear as people, you know, come to the city and are buying land and thinking about making developments, that they have a good idea, you know, of some kind of timeline, some kind of, you know, 1, 2, 3 steps that they have to do, so that there's, you know, people aren't purchasing land or thinking that they're moving through a process that maybe they're not ready to even start yet.
Sure. I mean, generally, you would look at the map amendment on its own and not what is proposed for the property. So when we have had map amendments tied to a development, they've traveled together. But in this case, this particular developer has only asked for a map amendment at this time. So the standards for amendments are outlined in the city code in 6-3-4-5 standard for amendment. And it really asks whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the overall character of the existing development in the immediate surrounding neighborhood, and whether the proposed amendment will have an adverse effect on the value of adjacent properties. So it doesn't really talk, and then, I'm sorry, one more, adequacy of public facilities and services. It doesn't really ask the merit of a development that would be proposed based on the map amendment. It asks you to look at the request for the amendment in the context of the surrounding area and our existing codes and plans.
So then if it doesn't say that in our city code, why is the plan commission's denial based on not having more information about the development itself?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the Plan Commission's perspective, and I think Scott Mangum's on here, and he was at that meeting. He can maybe speak to that. But I suspect some of this has to do with the fact that there was a very robust neighborhood process that established the West Evanston plan, and from that, the zoning was created from there. So the idea that you would change the zoning really goes against what the plan that the neighborhood created many years ago, probably almost 15 years ago now, but still it was a plan. So I think that they were probably speaking largely to the first standard for that amendment.
Okay, my last question is, so his development aside, thinking about the West Evanston plan, which I'm not that familiar with, since it was developed 15 or 10 years ago, what progress have we made on it? And is it worth us, if we haven't made any progress, looking at it again to see how feasible it is in today's climate, to maybe, you know, at some point making it more feasible so that spaces can be developed?
Sure. I think, you know, we've talked for several years now about revisiting a lot of our plans and the overall city comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan is almost 20 years old. So I think those are all things that are worth revisiting. And 6 months ago, I would have said, let's dive in and do it right now. But I think given the current pandemic, I would suggest as the community development director that we wait and see where the world is in 6 months, 18 months, 2 years before we launch into a plan based on the way the world has been.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, did you have something?
So I do still. I'm not totally clear. Actually, Alderman Rainey, I think, was before me, but it's more we let her go, and then I'll pick up after that. I see her waving, but I think she was before me.
I got all these things. I'm trying to. I'll get all of you. But we'll go Alderman.
I don't need to be before or after anybody. Just don't.
I thought I had Alderman
okay.
After and then.
So I do want to ask the applicant if we can add him onto the call. I have a couple questions here, because when I'm looking at the memo, I see more than just the 2044 Wesley property, but the ordinance only includes the 2044 Wesley property. So I'm not totally clear on what the overall intention is here. So if we could, is somebody said he's in the queue?
There we go. I see John. Okay. There you go. There you go. Yep. Now you're muted.
Hi, John. Were you following along?
Yes, I was. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. Okay, so a couple of questions. First off, the properties that you are intending to do something with, have you closed on all of those, or are some of those still contract purchases?
So there's two properties essentially here. There's two different versions. We've closed on the first section of it, which is 1.25 acres, which is 2044 Wesley. We have an option. We have an option to purchase the second part of the property, which is an additional acre, which goes along. It runs between sort of south of Jackson all the way towards Simpson. And if anybody knows the property, right now that property is about 10 feet tall, full of dumped waste material. So if anybody's familiar with the property, it is like a mound of dirt. We have done phase 1 and phase 2 studies on the property. It's contaminated.
Okay. So that aside, is that parcel also in the overlay district?
Correct, it is. Yes, that is in the overlay district.
Okay, so here's problem one, I think, is that I think the only parcel that we have in this ordinance as it's written is the 2044 parcel.
In the map that you have on your agenda, the highlighted red area encompasses the 2 parcels. In the package that goes with your agenda, there is a highlighted area that encompasses both parcels.
Okay, I'm just double checking it here because it's the exhibits and I've got to scroll through this stuff. So, I apologize. So it looks like it's more than just that one parcel. So that was my threshold question. Is you haven't closed on the second parcel. You explained at the last meeting that you didn't want to move forward with that unless you had some higher degree of confidence. So I understand that and I respect that. So I now have a better understanding. I thought somebody said you closed on all the parcels, and I wanted to make sure I understood correctly. Thank you.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Alderman Rainey, go ahead. I don't know if I have anything different to add.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, when I look at a project like this, and we've had lots of projects down in my ward, I think, I wouldn't want to lose the opportunity to have this in my ward, at least. But I don't have the space to have something like this in my ward. But I've been following this, and I just don't get the substance of the objections. And so my intention is to vote for this, but I wish I could understand the objections. It's a fabulous appearing project, and I think it will enhance and be a major plus to the neighborhood, which is a good neighborhood. And I don't think it'll have any negative effects. I don't understand. And I know many people in that neighborhood, I don't understand their objections. So
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
So it is an amazing neighborhood, and I don't want to lose the opportunity for the development either, but we have to have development that responds to the expectations of the community. And there was a community plan. I understand it's outdated. We should definitely revisit it, but I've asked staff, and it is common practice that there is more study, there is more of a written plan demonstrated and illustrated when we are making zoning decisions, and especially if we're talking about removing him from an overlay. I understand that as it's requested, it would create more density, and I don't know that that's something that the community in that area is embracing. We've been talking about residents native to the community being displaced, and this is an opportunity to develop a parcel of land, opportunities that are affordable, and we're looking at affordable housing land. We're looking at that.
Just flex.
I don't know what that is.
Feedback.
I don't know what that is. I don't have. thing on. So either way, the immediate residents are not in support of it. I believe that the applicant can come back with more information on what his intentions are, more than just a narrative, not just a summary of what he would like to do, but more substance to what the plan is. And I would love to see it work for the neighbors. And we could have more of a public process, get some feedback from the community on what they would like to see and move forward. So I'm hoping that he doesn't take this as a rejection, but he takes the recommendation of the Plan Commission and comes back with more of a plan.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I absolutely agree with Alderman Simmons. I think when you have an overlay district, especially one that's been a part of a public process, that gives the residents of the area a plan on which they can rely. And asking to be removed from that, I think makes it very difficult for the rest of the folks who are within that overlay district. And I think it's, again, perfectly reasonable to say that there needs to be a better understanding of what is going to be built there. It's very difficult when people don't understand that. I think the Plan Commission denying it is also a big part of this. So I'm going to respect Alderman Simmons and her decision about what's right for her ward and her neighborhood. I'm also going to respect the public process that established the overlay district and vote against this, with the hope that the developer comes back with a plan that really does work for the neighborhood and respects the process.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. All right, seeing no more discussion, this item was moved and seconded. This is P7 Ordinance 34-0-20, amending the zoning map to remove 2044 Wesley Ave from the OWE West Evanston Overlay District. City Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor, this is Melissa, could you just clarify, because this is one of those complicated ones where the Plan Commission has recommended a denial. So could you clarify what a yes is and what a no is?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up so everybody understands the vote. The wording of this, the Plan Commission recommends denial of Ordinance 34-0-20 to remove those properties from the West Evanston overlay. And staff was just recommending that we consider the intent. So the vote this evening, if you vote yes, you are voting to support the Planning Commission in recommending denial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Fisk.
Go ahead, City Clerk.
Alderman Fisk.
Yes, to support the Plan Commission.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Alderman Wilson, you're muted.
No, sorry, no.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
No.
And Alderman Fleming.
No.
Okay, so on a 6-3 vote, the Evanston City Council upholds the recommendation of a denial by the Plan Commission for Ordinance 34-0-20. All right, let's see. One more item left, which was HS1, Alderman
It's HS3, I think.
No, it's HS1.
We have two. You're right. I'm sorry, you're right. We have two, HS1 and then HS3. So Alderman Fleming, could you introduce HS1?
HS1, staff recommends the City Council accept and place on file the review of Evanston Police Complaints and Comments Report. It's CR number 19-12, DI number 19-03, and DI number 20-02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Yes, Alderman Fleming.
I just had a quick question, I guess, for you, really, Mayor. So I went to go look at these videos, but I realized in reading the report that the new police review committee is not participating yet. So can you give an update on when that committee is going to be in place and reviewing these reports?
Yeah, so we put out a request for applicants. We hadn't, the last I checked on this, and this was before the whole COVID-19 crisis, we hadn't had that many applicants. So I don't know if Erica, what we can do is I'll find out from Kimberly where we stand. She's not here tonight, but I'll find out from Kimberly.
Mr. Mayor, I am here.
Oh, hi, Kimberly.
Hi. To answer the question, we are in need of more applicants to review. As it stands, we had only less than 9 applications we submitted. I think the problem that we are facing is that now that we are currently in the crisis, we're not receiving a number of applications for any committee. Maybe 1 or 2 committees are coming in. So, I mean, our goal was to have this group seated before March. However, again, we need more applicants to be able to review. And that's the problem right now. We don't have that many. It's a 9 member board. And, there's not a lot of qualifications that would disqualify anyone for applying. So we've tried on multiple occasions. We've attempted now 3, exclusively mentioning the commission as needing applicants, and we will get a number of people, but it will only be 1 or 2. It wouldn't be the handful that, when we did the review committee, we had over 21 applications to review. And like I said, right now we have less than 10, less than even 9. So we need more applicants for a fair review, because right now there really wouldn't be it's just anyone who apply would just get it, which is if that's how the mayor and the city council want to move forward. But typically, you want to make sure you have a diverse group of individuals, and right now that may be lacking.
So I mean, I definitely agree with that. We want to have as a quality choice as possible. But if we've advertised it 3 or 4 times, or 2 or 3 times, does it make sense to even make the committee maybe a committee of 7 or a committee of 5? And I only ask that because obviously it's been a very long process. A lot of people participated in as you said, the review process, even though they maybe didn't apply to be on the new committee. Mm-hmm. But now for folks who are, paying attention to this issue, we have police complaints coming in, and we have our 2 police officers reviewing those. And so I don't want to, maybe people aren't thinking about it now, but I don't want to do anything that's going to belabor trust between, city government or the police and the residents, that we just have police who are now monitoring these without any citizen oversight. Sure. So I would like us to even make the committees 5 or 7, if that's as many people as are interested at this point.
We can definitely move forward with reviewing and select as many as a quorum will allow, and if we need to revisit going back to city council to amend the number of individuals, I would gladly have a conversation with the mayor and anyone else is interested. So we can definitely, from the group, I think there's enough to get us started. It just wouldn't be a full board.
All right. Well, hopefully I would suggest we do that then.
All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. Seeing none. All in favor of, this was moved and seconded. All in favor of HS1, approval of review of the Evanston police complaints and comments. The action was to accept and place this on file. In favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so HS1 passes 9-0. It's placed, accepted and placed on file. Alderman Fleming, can you introduce or move HS3?
Yes, HS3 is staff recommends adoption of ordinance 32-0-20, approving restrictions on the sale and adoption of cats, dogs, and rabbits in Evanston for action.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Alderman Fisk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to make a motion that we table this until the April 27th meeting. We've been talking with our corporation counsel, and we think we've come up with language that everyone will agree is works for all. And I want to thank everyone who's been involved in that. So I'm making a motion that we table this until April 27th.
Second.
Okay. So what? I'm sorry. So what date again?
April 27th.
All right.
Kelly, are you still there?
Yes.
Kelly.
Hi.
Hi there. Okay, so we're expecting that we will have the language ready to come to council on the 27th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. That item is tabled to the 27th. All right. We're now going to move on to call of the wards. So let's start with you, Alderman Fisk.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. It's been an incredible time for us. And I got to a point where I was on the one hand as proud as I could ever be of our town and the people who live here and the staff that works for us and everything that we've done. And on the other hand, reading the newspapers and listening to TV, it was just exhausting and so sad. And I just want to say that since the last meeting, I told all of you what a great job I think our staff is doing, and all of you and us as individuals, what we're doing. But I think what's really striking to me is how seriously these citizens of Evanston are taking this. And I have a front porch where I have windows that extend the full length of my house, and I live on Sherman Avenue, and I see a lot of people. And everybody walking by with their kids, with their families, with their friends, everybody is social distancing. And I just couldn't be prouder. The other day, a family pulled up with a car in front of a house, and they stood in the street and they sang a happy birthday song to someone who was in her home. And everybody on our street cheered. It was just a really wonderful thing to see. And I think for the most part, people are accepting the conditions with good humor and cheer and resolve and intelligence. And I couldn't be prouder to live here. So thanks to all of you guys, but thanks to everybody in Evanston.
Here. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll just follow behind Alderman Fisk and, continue to thank our staff, the leadership during this pandemic and everyone's efforts. I think this past week or so, the focus has been on food, feeding our most needy and vulnerable families. And it's been pretty impressive, just all the residents, Alderman Fleming, our staff, especially, and also the Evanston Community Foundation, Paul and Mary Finnegan for their kind donations. So in the midst of all this chaos, it's been really nice to see all the contributions, brave people who get up and go to work every single day. And again, all the random acts of kindness that I've had an opportunity to observe. So thank you to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, I'll echo Judy and Peter and say such heartfelt thanks to you, Mayor, and Erica for leading such a superb team of staff members. Over and over again, I am so impressed by what our city has done so quickly and so creatively and imaginatively to address this really continuing, ongoing crisis. And also to all of the citizens who, as Alderman Fisk said, are recognizing it and pulling together. So, and I also witnessed, it was an 18th birthday sung by 20 ETHSers who were radiating out from the front door last week from someone up the block who recently had a death in their family. And the 18-year-old was standing on his front steps and Dr. Witherspoon would have been very proud at how perfectly they were social distancing, and it was really heartwarming. So I do want to thank all of our staff, though. They are continuing to give it their all and do things that I find extraordinary. And I know residents are so grateful for all of the efforts that are being made. And they do feel that what I hear over and over again is that they feel that Evanston is doing it right, that they are hearing things, they're understanding the issues, and that we're communicating clearly. So thank you all for that.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Wilson.
I agree with all of that. I'm very proud of our community. I'm proud to be from here. A lot of people are going through a really difficult time. A lot of people are afraid. People in our community are battling the virus right now, and that's very terrifying to a lot of people. But at the same time, our community has really rallied. They've looked at what people need. They are reaching out to people, and it's very heartening. So in a terrifying situation, it's good to be in Evanston and from Evanston, and I'm grateful for everything that you guys are doing, everything the staff's doing, and we'll come out on the other side of this and learn a few things along the way. But thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know that I could add anything. Just standing united with you all in your thanks to the community, to the staff. I just am so impressed and proud of everyone on City Council, the mayor's leadership, our city manager, Director Ike Ogbo, just amazing work. Proud that the reports that I've had have been, residents have been able to access testing when they need it. We did hear something different in the comment, and I'm glad that the mayor is going to follow up with that directly. But thank you to everyone. Hearts and prayers are with those that have lost family members and loved ones in this pandemic. And we will get through this. Just keep on social distancing. It seems like we're doing it right. And thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Suffolk.
Sure. I would just echo what everyone says. Wish all our neighbors the best, including those at Three Crowns. I'd like to make one referral. I don't know if under the state of emergency this is something we just do unilaterally, but I'd like us to have a discussion at our next meeting about capping the commission that third-party delivery services can charge our restaurants. San Francisco just passed an ordinance capping it at 15%. I know we're not as big as San Francisco, but it's something that we should maybe consider. And I just wish everyone continued good health and thinking good thoughts for people who are struggling right now.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that suggestion, referral. Alderman Revelle.
Well, I would just echo everything everybody has already said. The mayor, city manager, all of our staff are just doing just an unbelievable job, and hours and hours every day and all week long to keep Evanston safe. And our nonprofit community has just really stepped up so impressively as well. And as have been mentioned by all of you, our fellow residents are really doing what it's going to take to help us get through this. So I echo Alderman Wilson's comments about being proud to be from Evanston. It's really, the community's really doing a great job pulling together. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I do believe that the residents in Evanston want the city to keep running. And I don't think we could have a better staff than the one we have. And they are keeping the regular services in our city running. And I think if you look at our packet that we received this week, you can see that. They're looking at our budget, they're looking at our public works, they're looking at the capital program, they're figuring out how this city can continue to run normally to a great extent. And I was just so amazed at all the work that they did over the past few weeks to make that happen. And then we don't even give much thought. But these people, our major staff people, have another job now. They have two jobs. They're all working emergency jobs. They're all assigned. If you read Erica's reports, they all have emergency operations center jobs. It's just amazing the work they're doing. And Mayor Haggerty, I want to say to you that, and I think you must know this, that everybody, council members, we just lucked out with Mayor Haggerty. We have one of the best leaders for a mess like we're in of any city in this country. And I really appreciate the leadership that you've shown. You've probably taken some of the burden off of some of our staff. So thank you very much. I want to say one thing about service in terms of the food insecurity. We haven't mentioned Vineyard Church. They are just doing an amazing job in providing food to those who need it. And also St. Vincent de Paul. They're doing a great job. And I was in Valley a couple of times this week for various reasons. Those people, the workers in Valley, they are scrubbing and cleaning and all decked out in all sorts of gloves and face masks and hats, and just doing an amazing job keeping the shelves filled with food and not toilet paper, but they did have single rolls. But I mean, they're just really doing a fabulous job. And I know Jewel has responded to our requests for being safer, and they're, counting the people as they go in. We're all in this together, and so thank you, everybody. Everybody's doing a great job.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming.
So yes, thank you to all of our staff, and I especially want to thank our staff who are out in the streets. We have people still picking up trash and trying to clean the streets, and some of our public works folks are still out. So I really want to thank them. I think we probably passed them by in our rush to get to the store and don't even realize people are still outside, doing their best to keep the city running and clean, which is also very important. A couple of different announcements. I will be having my same ward meeting on Saturday. So an email will be coming out in the next couple of days. We're going to do that by phone again. Tuesday, Alderman Rainey mentioned Vineyard. We also have Tuesday, Interfaith is going to still be moving forward with their monthly produce mobile. So that's part of the Greater Chicago Food Depository. That's going to be over at Levy Center. So please help get the word out. It's usually at Robert Crown. It'll be at Levy. So we're hoping that people don't show up at Crown, but that will start at 8:30. So that's tomorrow morning, and they are sending even more food. So please let everyone know they can come out there. As the mayor mentioned, this Wednesday we'll have the Evanston Emergency Food Pantry. It will be at the Field House in James Park. That's kind of back at the bottom of the hill. So enter like you're going to Levy Center, but just keep going. We'll have plenty of signs and staff out there to direct you. Both of those food banks are going to be with social distancing. So we are going to make sure we have staff out there to get the boxes, or volunteers out there to get the box to your car so you can remain in your car. Sorry, I'm getting a message here. I think I gave the wrong time. So it looks like tomorrow is at, Director Hemway is saying tomorrow is at 9:30, but I think that he's wrong. But check the schedule for tomorrow for the produce mobile. So the Wednesday food pantry is new. It's going to run from 9:30 to 11:30 on Wednesday. I do want to thank Erica Storley, who was great when I came to her and asked about getting some more food out to the community, because we all, I think, we're hearing in the community. Audrey is still going to be delivering to our seniors, so she is taking care of that population. I want to thank Alderman Braithwaite and the Chessmen, who are donating funds for our seniors so we can ensure that they have meals. Want to thank Dave Davis from Northwestern, who actually gave his entire department budget to the food pantry. So that was quite remarkable. I'm going to challenge Morty Sapiro to match Dave's contribution on that. And also to Indira, because she really had this idea and brought it to my attention with all the calls she was getting for general assistance and people really just needing to have money for rent and food. Those were the two main items that people are going to be struggling to pay for. So thank you to those staff members, and we're happy to have, there'll be more information. There is a link for you to donate funds. There'll be more information later about how you can donate non-perishable food to the food bank.
Thank you, Alderman.
Oh, can I add one more thing, Mayor? I'm sorry. This actually came up earlier today when I was out. I'm just going to encourage our residents to be very graceful with each other. I've unfortunately seen a couple of times where I've been in the store. One was yesterday when a young lady was there and she had two children, and someone unfortunately kind of chastised her for having her children out, and she went in to explain that she was a single parent and didn't have childcare. So I think we have to assume that people are doing the best they can under these circumstances. Everyone doesn't have the economic stability to shelter in place. We have, as Alderman Rainey pointed out, a lot of people working at Valley Produce. So as we want everyone to follow the rules, I think, can we just please be graceful and understanding that everyone can't shelter in place and order Instacart. Everyone doesn't have childcare to leave their kids at home when they're shopping. And I know the mayor and I and probably everyone else has gotten lots of calls about the lakefront. And I think the governor pointed this out. It's also important as we're sheltering in place that people get some fresh air just for their mental stability and go for walks and things. And so our police have been overloaded, I know, with calls about people calling about people walking with no mask or not spacing. And a lot of times when they approach people, their families or people who live together. So while we're trying to make sure we all stay safe, I would like us to just also extend some grace to each other and assume that people are doing the best they can under these circumstances.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alderman. And just for those that are looking, again, folks in the emergency operation, our city staff are looking at all the metrics and everything else to help inform us and guide the decisions that we're making. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
A second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed?
Be well, everyone.
All right. Be well, everyone. Stay home. Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night.